What's going on, everybody? Welcome into the Blazers Uprise post-game show. The Blazers fall tonight on national television by a final score of 116 to 115. This game was a lot different, though, than some of their recent losses. The Blazers were actually competitive tonight against a good NBA team. A clutch bucket by Jason Tatum late kind of put this game to rest, but at least the Blazers were in it in the final minutes. We saw some things that we've been asking for in this game, and I thought they worked really, really well. We're going to touch on that. As we got later into the game, the Blazers kind of went away from that, but, there was progress. There's good things to talk about from this loss, which is rare. This is as pleased with a loss as I think I can be, for the most part. There's definitely things the Blazers could do better, but considering how far off they were from being competitive against good teams, I thought tonight was signs of progress. Now, I don't want anybody to get confused. We've seen flashes in the pan where the Blazers have had a good style of play in the past and have had a game like this, and then oftentimes they kind of regress back, so I'm not expecting this to necessarily last, but I thought the style of play, especially during the first half of this game, was a lot of the things that me and Eric have been asking for, and we will break that down. So what's going on, everybody? Hope you're having a good night. Thank you for tuning in as always. Eric, do you share my kind of emotions on that, with this being probably about as pleased as I can be with a loss?
Well, the only problem with that is we need these wins, and I don't know. I don't like the moral victory route because of some of the things that continue to be an issue at points in this game still, such as playing Melo and Cantor together and our defense just falling apart during those minutes. Stuff like that we know what's going to be the outcome in those situations. And luckily tonight, Melo went crazy. But, if Melo didn't go insane from the field, I don't feel like we played particularly well at stretches during this game. We did have some good stretches where we moved the ball well, so that was nice to see. But overall, I'm still kind of frustrated, in my opinion.
We moved the ball better. That first half was the best half of ball movement we've had all season long. I was worried coming into this game, Dame's going to be guarded by Marcus Smart. They have the personnel to trap. I figured this was going to be much like the games of the past. Instead, Dame had I think 15 points in the first quarter, was maybe 5 for 9, and didn't have to work for pretty much any of those shots. He didn't have to expend much energy setting up the offense. The ball movement in the first half was extremely good, and I feel like, got to take some solace in the fact that we actually had some ball movement, because how it was in the previous games against contending teams, dude, it was non-existent. So I thought it was a night and day difference. We also were switching up coverages of the pick and roll defensively. Even with Cantor in the game, we tried switching things up a couple of times. I thought the execution was a bit off, but that's to be expected when they haven't run much other than drop scheme all year. So yes, that's a gripe, but at least Cantor hedged a couple times. There's one time where he fell down and it led to an open three. But I thought our biggest problem defensively this game, for once, actually wasn't necessarily the schemes we were running. I just thought we were way too slow rotating out to shooters. We could have been much better and quicker at rotating out to shooters. And that was really what hurt us the most defensively in this game.
Yeah, the only thing I'll say to that is, once again, we have an individual in Jason Tatum in this particular game that ends up going crazy in the second half, and I didn't feel like, the last couple plays, I guess Nurkic tried to trap him, but for the most part, we were just allowing a single person to cover him up top and him just to go to work on that, and he blew by several players for lay-ins or dunks, and hits tough threes with guys in his face sometimes, but I didn't feel like we did a good enough job of just, when someone's killing us in a half, just taking them out of the game and making someone else beat us.
Yeah, I guess where I stand at, though, is they were so bad and so far off that it it wasn't going to be possible for this team to completely flip the switch. You know what I mean? I mean, given how hopeless the past, 5 games were against good competitive teams, I was just hoping for signs of progress and hoping the Blazers would be competitive, because they were not. They basically lost the last 5 games against healthy, good teams by 17 points or more. I know the Miami game was a 9-point game, but it was a 19-point game with 5 minutes left. So, this game wasn't perfect by any means. Still a lot of areas that they can focus on and improve, but I thought this game showed what we need to do in order to be successful against a good team. That's the offense we ran in the first half. And here's the thing, in the first half, we were up 3 at halftime with 60 points, but I felt like Dame and CJ weren't shooting the ball that well. Dame had an efficient first half, but he got, great shots. It wasn't, I don't know, it wasn't something where I thought Dame shot well. I just thought the shot selection he was able to get was great, but it wasn't like the type of half that we know Dame can have. And CJ certainly did not shoot the ball well in the first half. He was 2 for 9. So with neither of those two really doing what we know they can do when they're on, for us to have 60 points, I think that shows why moving the ball is effective. I thought Melo was able to get going off of ball movement. We were zipping the ball out to him and guys were closing out too hard on him. He was able to dribble into that mid-range shot. Far, far better than him shooting turnaround fadeaways out of the post like he's done almost all season long. I thought his shot selection in the first half and the shots we were able to get him was good. We were able to get Norman Powell a couple looks. We were able to get Norman Powell a couple cuts to the interior. I mean, you had Melo throw Rocco a beautiful pass when Rocco cut, and we got a laying out of that. Nurkic was able to get a couple finishes off the pick and roll. That's kind of what we generally do. But overall, I thought the offense in the first half was very good, and there was nothing that Boston could really throw at it to stop it. If Dame's going off the pick and roll, you throw a good trap at that, you shut down the Blazers, and the Blazers don't really have an answer for that. When the Blazers are moving the ball like that, there's no one thing you can do to solve that as a defense. It makes Portland much harder to game plan for and much more effective offensively. Everybody gets involved, and in turn, I think everybody kind of having a share in the offense might raise their defensive intensity a little bit. But overall, just the offense, that's what we need to see in the first half. We need to see offense like that. It'll make us a far better offensive team in the playoffs. So I enjoyed watching that offense the first half, and I was pleased with it.
Yeah, I agree for pretty much everything you said, except for the fact that we gave up 57, so they were still right there. You'd like to see us build some sort of lead when we're having that offense with just a little bit of defense. So even if I concede that we had a good first half, I felt like we came out in the third quarter, we're kind of doing the same things. So I was like, okay, this third quarter maybe is going to go differently. But by the end of the quarter, Boston had built like an 8-point lead at one point in the quarter and had taken control of the game. And then we're playing catch up again in the fourth quarter. And I think there was like 5 minutes left and we were down 8 again. And it's just like a dangerous game to play with a team that's like us, who has been good in the clutch this season, versus a team that hasn't had very much luck in the clutch. Those averages kind of evened out tonight. But so I felt like, even though we played fairly well, like you said, I don't think we took advantage of it by having a complete game. And it's not going to be a complete game if you're trying to do different things. So I get it that you're going to resort back. I felt like CJ took a lot of bad shots in this game at times where we had the momentum with the passing and things were flowing nice, and then you have someone just dribble down and take a bad shot. And when you don't hit those shots, it kind of kills your momentum. So I think we need to try and limit the bad shot selection from the guys who are used to not passing the ball maybe in those situations, especially when CJ comes in with that second unit, and he needs to be more of a playmaker, I think. But yeah, I mean, overall, the 31 assists is hard to complain about that.
Yeah, well, I want to touch on CJ, right? I felt like during the first half, people were complaining about shot selection. You look at that in contrast, it's him going isolation when we've been moving the ball well. But I thought for the most part, he was doing it when there was like 6, 7, 8 seconds on the shot clock, and we were running low on the shot clock, which is what me and you have talked about. We need better ball movement during the first, 2/3 of the shot clock to try and manufacture some of the great looks that we got in the first half. And then if we're not able to get anything, that's when you give it to a guy like CJ with 6, 7, 8 on the shot clock. He goes, make something happen. So I felt like people were being a little bit too hard on him in the first half. Now, I thought he forced a little bit more in the second half, but the first half he was 2 for 9. At least 2, maybe 3 of those shots were up against the shot clock where he's just trying to manufacture something with the clock dwindling down. There was another one, he shot a pull-up mid-range early in a possession that got blocked out of bounds, so still our ball didn't really hurt us, but, you want him to kind of wait on that type of shot. Mm-hmm. Overall, I felt like people were being a little bit too hard on him. I felt like he got some solid looks throughout this game, just wasn't really on. This was definitely an shooting night for CJ, but we were still effective offensively. We had a lull there during the fourth quarter, which was really the only stretch where we were not producing offensively, and that's because we got a bit ISO heavy. Yep. And we kind of went away from the ball movement that was working, and that was with the bench unit. And Melo was able to hit some impressive shots, but even with him hitting some impressive shots, Eric, I still think we only scored 7 points during the first 6 minutes or so during the start of the fourth quarter. And that's
pretty much only the shots he made.
Yep. And that's what did us in offensively. So, yeah, it was not a complete game, but compared to what it was where we weren't moving the ball like that at all, it's encouraging. Because I felt like the best case scenario in terms of style of play going into this game was what we saw tonight. And I did not expect us to see the ball movement that we did tonight. I also didn't expect Stotts to actually switch up some of the coverages. Maybe he should have done it more, but at least he didn't run drop scheme 100% of the time all game long too. So,
yep, gotta give credit, I guess, for doing what he should be doing. So yeah, let's get some of these donations out of the way, and I want to touch upon why I think he cost us the game in the last minute. So the first donation was by Play-by-Play, $3. Says another day, another loss against a good team. Unfortunately, this doesn't help our record against this team.
Yeah, it's another loss against a good team, but it's a completely different type of loss. I'm not sitting here frustrated like, why do we play such a bad, dumb brand of basketball? It's, man, I really wish we could have won that game because I felt like for more than half this game, we played a good style of basketball. Completely different than what we've seen. So, yes, it's another loss, but...
That's what's frustrating about the lull in the fourth quarter, in my opinion, is because, I felt like they should have been rewarded for playing this way based on the way they were playing up until that point, and it's kind of frustrating that they lose a game when they maybe could have won this one and gotten some good vibes by beating above 500 team or whatever.
Yep. Second dono is from Portland 2 Fresh, $5 dono. He says, so sick and tired of CJ. Like Stotts, he has overstayed his welcome here. Should have traded him after the Western Conference Finals. They both lasted so long because of Dame. Okay, buddy. Appreciate the dono. Should have traded CJ for what after the Western Conference Finals? I hate when people just say, oh, we should have traded him. Oh, for what? Though, you're not trading him unless you can get something useful back. Otherwise, it's just silly. But I felt like people being way too hard on CJ. Honestly, Eric, I thought in the first half, CJ played really good defensively. Really good defensively.
Defensively, I'd agree with that.
Yeah. And it's like, what have we talked about? When he's missing shots, we want him to still have a positive impact by making the right pass and the right play and then playing some defense. Now, he only had 2 assists at halftime, didn't really make for others, but the offense itself was kind of generating good shots for others, so it didn't need him necessarily to do that. And then defensively, I thought he was good. He might have forced a couple shots in the first half, but he was 2 for 9. But, some of those were down against the shot clock, which I don't blame him for at all. But at halftime, you have all these people saying exactly what Portland 2 Fresh is saying in this dono, and I just don't agree with it.
Yeah, I will say, too, CJ almost saved the game single-handedly on one possession by fighting for 3 straight offensive rebounds, and then Dame hits a 3 off an inbounds pass on that same possession. So then that, I want to say that cut it to 1 or 2 at the time. And that absolutely gave us a chance to win. If he doesn't get one of those rebounds, we probably lose by 5 or 6 in this game because we wouldn't have had a chance to even go ahead after that. So you just mentioned it. He's got to do more than just scoring or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a particular play where CJ like willed our team to extra possessions 3 straight times on one possession, and that kind of hustle is good to see. Obviously, he's not really that type of player a lot, so it's cool to see him get those rebounds in that situation based off just like effort plays.
Yeah, it just frustrates me when people base his game entirely off if he's making or missing shots, because in the past you've been able to do that because he doesn't bring anything else to the table. But people will complain about, oh, no defense, nothing other than, making shots. If he's not making shots, he's not helping the team. And then he'll start doing things that help the team win other than making shots. But if he's missing shots, people will still blame him. It's just, this is what we wanted. He had 7 rebounds in this game, including those 3 offensive ones on that possession, 5 assists, played genuinely good defensively, I thought. Now, he didn't play a perfect game defensively. I'm sure you can find a clip here, a clip there that is him making a mistake, but you could do that for anybody on this team. And CJ's standard, the bar for CJ defensively isn't that high. Let's just be honest, because he hasn't been a good defender throughout his career. He's been a poor defender. He's been okay defensively this year, and especially during that first half, because I was really focusing on him and watching him. He played good defense that first half, so he's going to have bad shooting nights. He needs to be able to impact the game in other ways. He did that tonight. He was a plus 13 on the court in his 37 minutes, despite the fact that he shot 6 for 19. Now, plus or minus is a noisy stat, but I think I've made enough of a case that he was still doing some positive things on the court and shouldn't be held accountable because he had a bad shooting night. Sure, got a, maybe a couple possessions he shouldn't have shot, a shot that he took. Yeah. But overall, I don't really have a big problem with how CJ played tonight.
And that's the problem when you rely on guys like Dame and CJ. Obviously, in our Western Conference Finals run, he basically had to take those shots, even though they were not the greatest shot selection. And, you make them and you build a reputation on being a tough shot maker. But then it's hard to turn that off when all of a sudden you have a game like this where the ball is flowing well, you are getting good shots. You don't necessarily have to take those. So while it is frustrating that he takes some of those shots and tonight it wasn't hitting them in those situations, I totally get our reliance on guys like that to make shots normally and how that's hard to just turn off this game right in the middle of it when for 7 years, or I guess it's only been 5 years for CJ being a starter, but for all that time, it's been a reliance on him to be that guy who makes those shots, and we don't really have much of an offense other than that. And tonight, Melo was hitting. Dame played fairly well, so it's just tough on those nights. I'd like to see him do what Dame does sometimes and just get the ball to the hot hand versus taking a shot. But yeah, it's kind of minor gripes, and it's simply because he didn't hit any of those tonight, it seemed like.
Yeah, exactly. If he has a good shooting night, everybody's saying he played a great game, because then other people... Here's the thing. If he goes 11 for 19, nobody's complaining about his shot selection, and then people are pointing out all the other things that he did in this game simply because they're happy with him. But since they're unhappy with him missing shots, they're not going to give him enough credit in other areas of the game, I feel like. Shout out play-by-play, $5 dono. He says, let's look on the bright side of this game, though. This loss brings us one step closer to the firing of Terry no adjustments Stotts. And, I mean, that's kind of the point I'm at right now. If this season goes awry, that should be the silver lining. So, I don't know, if the team starts moving the ball like they did in the first half consistently and it starts changing up defensive schemes and whatnot, then I have to wonder if, they give him more of a leash, because that's what I think the front office wants from him, and that's what we want from him. We just want a coach that can have us do those two things at least. He hasn't been able to consistently do it, and I don't trust him to be able to consistently do it. This might be a situation where he feels like his back is up against the wall, so he's really trying to make this a point of emphasis. So, it's not something where, because of one game I'm buying stock in his coaching all of a sudden at all. And yeah, I mean, that's a silver lining, if the season goes awry. So for me, it was just let's see, let's just see what we look like. If it's bad, it's bad, and that's the silver lining. If it's good, we could talk about something good and a loss for once, and that's kind of where we're at with this post-game show.
Mm-hmm.
Apple's 3 Australian dollar dono. He says, "How do you deal with the pain? Years and years of practice." Right, Eric?
Yeah, it's just numb at this point, right?
I mean, Gonzaga lost the national championship game in the most depressing 40 minutes of basketball I've ever watched. So honestly, a Blazer loss is nothing like that, and I'm still, recovering from that one. Shout out Near Zero 12. What's up, Near Zero? $5 dono. He says CJ had amazing effort tonight. He's still a great, efficient scoring machine. LOL. Yeah, I mean, hopefully he's able to be as efficient as he was before his injury. His efficiency since returning from that injury isn't quite as high. And obviously it probably wasn't going to be as high because he was shooting the ball great. I just hope that, he's able to continue to make impacts in the low areas of the game, be better defensively, make the right play, whether it's shooting the right shot and living with the result or making the right pass. And the effort on the boards tonight on that one possession was one of the best effort possessions we've seen. Because we talk about Enes Kanter and the effort he gives, Eric, but he's 7 foot. CJ's 6'3", getting those rebounds. That was phenomenal, and that got us 3 points. That was 3 points we wouldn't have had without that effort.
Yeah, I will say that, CJ still could do a lot more to improve his efficiency. He doesn't get to the free throw line a lot. Like I said, when he draws the defense, he often shoots instead of pass, which I think would open up when he does drive to better looks. So there are some things he can do to improve efficiency wise. But it's just tough when he's not making shots because it looks so much worse than it is.
Yep, I agree with that. What was the next dono after that? Do you have that?
The next dono is by Play-by-Play, $5. He says, "I will say I like that Stotts used the Nurk-Melo combo instead of Kanter. Nurk looked very solid in my opinion." Yeah,
I want to hold off the Nurk talk until a little bit later, but I do want to talk about Nurkic. Appreciate the dono. What's the next one? Because my chat refreshed and I can't see them all.
I am scrolling. There was some big ones. Jimmy Cleveland, $5. What's up, Jimmy? He says, "Well, just got off work, but watched the game while there. Why didn't CJ pass Melo the ball while he was cooking?"
Melo got a lot of looks, I thought, in the fourth quarter. Is there one specific possession you're talking about, or are you just saying in general? Because, I don't know. I don't know. How many times did Melo shoot there in the fourth quarter? Do you know?
I don't. In the fourth quarter, I don't know if he shot that much. Wasn't it more towards the end of the third that he was shooting?
He had 7 points to start the fourth. He had he was the only one being able to hit anything to start the fourth.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure CJ had a pass to him on that. Didn't CJ pass him the ball on that fast break where he hit that three before that timeout early in the fourth?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, so...
when Melo's on fire, I say this all the time, but I wish we had, we'd set a cross screen for him so he comes across and gets a little deeper post position, or we run just a down screen and him pop to the free throw line, pass to him, open shot, or get that shot off before the defender reacts or whatever. And just that's what I feel like the next step in the offense could be, is instead of just relying on Dame and CJ to pass the ball, and if they don't, then everyone's screaming, "Why don't you pass?" Why not say in those situations, "Hey, we're going to run a down screen for Melo. He's going to pop to the free throw line. Look for him there because he's on fire." And I'm sure CJ would pass to him in that situation if that was our game plan. But like I said, we just have such a reliance on straight ISO Melo, straight ISO CJ, pick and roll Dame. Those are our only options. So it feels unnatural kind of to go away from it, especially in those situations in the fourth quarter where it tenses up and you need to score. We're not used to being able to get good shots in those situations. So I feel like just running a couple set plays in those situations instead of how we run like occasional set play in the beginnings of the games, which worked well.
Yeah.
Once again, the set plays always seem to work, but somehow we don't run very many of them. So I just wish, especially with that second unit, I just feel like just some little simple things like that, where it's a design play to get someone coming off a screen, I think off ball would do wonders for the ball movement.
Yeah, I mean, during the first half, I really liked our offense because it was basically motion freelance, it seemed like. It was, and I made this point on the last post-game stream where I said, so every offense or every team has a freelance offense that they resort to at times. Some, it's a motion-based freelance offense. That's kind of what Golden State has done, and they look for specific actions out of freelance. A lot of like split cuts and whatnot. Portland's freelance offense has been ISO and pick and roll, and that's about it. During the first half, our freelance offense it had a lot of motion to it and had a lot of ball movement to it. I still thought we were missing those quick hitters for specific players. A quick hitter for Derrick Jones Jr. is not going to look like a quick hitter for Melo. A quick hitter for Derrick Jones Jr. would likely be a backdoor lob, and we've seen that occasionally, but very rarely, and the same quick hitter that we run for Derrick Jones Jr., we could run for Nasir Little, and we could maybe even run for Anthony Simons, and then we could have quick hitters that try and get guys in the mid-range, maybe it's for CJ coming off a curl to the mid-range, coming off a pin down, or maybe it's for Carmelo Anthony when he has it going in order to get him that type of shot, and then quick hitters where you look for a specific cut or whatnot. And I felt like we're still missing those, despite how much I liked our offense in the first half, we were still missing those. And it becomes a situation where, like, it's going to be a little bit harder to move the ball effectively with Kanter in the game than Nurkic, because Nurkic is a better passer. Now, we shouldn't be as stagnant as we have been with Nurkic in the game, or with Kanter in the game. Like, we've been far more stagnant than we should have been. But if something happens like what happened during the first half of the fourth quarter, where we're struggling to get quality looks and our ball movement is kind of fading and whatnot, but you have one guy going in Melo, run a quick hitter for him. And then if you have Derrick Jones Jr. in the game, run a backdoor lob for him. Just run these quick hitters to potentially get good looks, because we're struggling for them, but we don't really have good quick hitting sets, I feel like, that get players in a position of strength.
And after you run the down screen for Melo, you put Derrick Jones Jr. as the down screener, right? And then the next time Melo comes up and sets a back pick for him, and he rolls. And if they stay with Melo, you lob it up to Derrick Jones. If they go with Derrick Jones on that lob or give him extra attention, you pass to Melo, and he's got the jumper again right in that same spot.
Yeah.
It's just like, I just wish they would tweak and just do like little simple plays like that. Especially in those moments you're talking about.
Yep, I agree. Jimmy Cleveland, another $5 dono. Stotts missed the last timeout. We will talk about the last minute after we get through the donos. Let's try and catch up here. Shout out Near 012. Let me know if I miss one, by the way. Shout out Near 0.
I think we're good. Yep.
Near 012, $5 dono says Stotts needs to be way better on his set substitution rotation. Nurk should have played 9 minutes in the fourth. Well, I think Nurkic is still on a minutes restriction, so I think that was the situation there. How many minutes did Nurkic play in this game? Do you know? I think he might have surpassed it, actually.
25,
okay.
Which I think is right at his limit.
Yeah, right at 25. So Nurkic is playing more. It would have been nice to see a little bit more Nurkic, of course, but that's not a Stotts thing. That's the minutes restriction that he's on. And Jimmy, another $5 dono to correct what he meant to say in the last one. He's saying, I was trying to say that Stotts misused the last time out. I agree, Jimmy. We will talk about that in a second, the timeout situation and kind of what went down there in that final minute. Next dono we have is a $20 dono from Mills Woj. Appreciate it. Woj? He says, if we keep the style up, we can compete with top 4 teams. The games the rest of the month aren't as tough. CJ's rebounding possession is playoff basketball. It wouldn't hurt to call timeouts at the right times. Sorry if I misread that at all, but I mean, the style of play is progress. It's not entirely where it needs to be, but we played a far better brand of basketball this game than we have against a good team maybe all season long. So it's not where it needs to be, but it's better than what it was because it was awful the past 5 games we played against a good, healthy team.
It was nice to actually, have a game against a good team come down to the end instead of fourth quarter, like, great. Or are we going to come back and make this a game? Nope, we're not.
Well, I just like that I enjoyed watching this game, Eric. I enjoyed watching this game more than any game in a long time. In a long, long time. Because going against bad teams is like, what does it matter? We'll probably beat them, and if we don't, then it's stressful. If we do, it's like, oh, that's what we're supposed to do. And then against good teams where it would actually be an entertaining and fun game, we're getting blown out, so it's... And you're kind of hopeless going into each matchup. So this, despite it being a loss, I enjoyed this game, and it was fun to watch. And the brand of basketball, I was just getting so happy and so hyped at just some of the stuff we were doing in the first quarter. I mean, that play where you had Nurkic up top, pass to a backdoor cutting Dame, and then he kicked it to the opposite corner for a Norman Powell 3. Bro, that's exactly what I'm talking about. You can get Dame. We got Dame an easy laying off that type of action with a pass that I don't know how it got through, but that's just Nurkic being Nurkic. In the second half there. But if Dame doesn't get a layup off it, you can get good action off of that. I feel like one of the best 3-point looks the Blazers can get is Norman Powell in the corner. He's a great corner 3-point shooter. An open 3 in the corner from a pass that's coming directly from the rim. So he doesn't have to catch and turn. He can have vision of the hoop, step straight into his shot square, and launch. That 3-point look was one of our best 3-point looks all season long. Just because it was an inside-out pass with Norman Powell shooting from the corner.
Yep, I agree. I really like that's not necessarily a design that's more freelance, but I like having Powell in the corners in those situations as the outlet for them if Dame can't lay it in. And I'd love to see that exploited more, because if those passes get through, Dame either has a lay-in or the defense is sucked in to a point where someone has to be open. And it's the same thing when Dame gets trapped. It's just it's easier from the baseline to throw that pass to the corner than it is for him near half court being doubled trying to pass across the court to the other side of the half court.
Yep, agreed. Shout out play-by-play, another $5 dono. Y'all hating on CJ putting your blame in the wrong place for why this team is struggling. I mean, yeah, the thing is like CJ didn't, like, we still scored 115 points. CJ was good defensively. He had 5 assists. I don't know. It's like if he's shooting bad, some people just don't want him ever shooting, because there in the fourth quarter, it seemed like he knew he was struggling and he started to kind of force a little bit less, but then he got like multiple open 3-point shots that he missed there in the fourth quarter, Eric. And it's like, if he passes up every open 3 he gets because he hasn't been hitting, that's going to hurt us far more than if he keeps shooting open 3s. Because if he keeps shooting open 3s, there's a chance that he gets on a roll, there's a chance he'll knock some down, but if he pretends like he's Tony freaking Allen offensively, that's going to hurt us, Like, you want him shooting open 3s, no matter if he's 0 for 10, because he's that level of shooter. Shoot, if Melo's 0 for 10 from 3, I want him shooting open 3s too. Any shooter of that caliber, it doesn't matter what they've shot. If they get an open 3, you want them shooting the ball. So, people complain about, oh, he's still shooting in the fourth. He's getting open 3s. Like, you still want him shooting those shots.
Yeah, I would say those shots, yes. The other shots, he did take a couple of his normal CJ shots. I think he hit one of them. But those situations, I just hope that at some point the narrative becomes, in their minds, they don't have to necessarily take those shots, especially without working some sort of offense first, like you were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
So as long as they limit those type of possessions, I absolutely agree. If CJ is open, he should shoot it every time, regardless of how he's shooting that game.
Yeah, and I don't know, man. It becomes a situation where, like, you, as a scorer, you still try and have confidence and get yourself going. I feel like difference between Melo is he gets going off of good shots, where CJ's more the guy where he'll get going off a contested mid-range. I mean, maybe that's just me, but that's kind of how I feel about it. And I thought Melo got going there because of the types of shots he was getting in the first half, and then got going again in the fourth quarter because of the types of shots he was taking. Whereas CJ's a guy who will get going if he breaks your ankles and steps back and hits a mid-range in your face. Do you kind of have that same feeling, or is that just me?
Yeah, I mean, I get what you're saying.
Yeah, so it's like if he shoots one or two of those over the course of a half to try and get himself going, and he, misses both of them, like, I'm cool with like 1 or 2.5, when he's playing 18 minutes and a half. Just as long as if he doesn't get going off those, kind of being willing to like take a back seat and not keep forcing that type of stuff, which is what I kind of thought he did there going into the fourth quarter. And then he started getting open threes. Of course, he's going to shoot those. I felt like down the stretch, he didn't really force too many bad looks. He could have been better, but I feel like it's kind of silly to harp on, maybe 3 or 4 shots he shouldn't have taken when he played 37 minutes, when there's a lot more to his game that he provided tonight in multiple areas.
I just think there's possessions where he dribbles up and when he crosses half court, it's going up and he's not going to pass the ball. Well, and those are the type of possessions I really struggle with.
I have a question for you. How much of that do you think is just CJ wants to do that, and how much of that do you think CJ feels like, oh, well, I might as well because the offense isn't going to result in anything anyway?
Yeah, that's of course a big part of it, and that's what I mentioned earlier when I said that there's so much of a reliance on him to make those shots because our offense is crap anyway. Just in a game like tonight where it seems like we're having success, we have 31 assists. I just hate seeing possessions where we don't do that, and then it ends in a bad shot, and then he's not making them on top of him, not shooting a high percentage. It just looks really bad in those situations, I think. So as long as he cuts those particular possessions, especially when he's in with the second unit and he's the de facto point guard, I don't like the impact is, but it also
we got a little
lag.
No, it was. I think we're good though. Yeah, go ahead.
Not only does it waste a possession, but it also kind of, if you're a teammate with him and you're like a Melo who's on fire and you want the ball again because you're everything you're throwing up is going in. That's kind of frustrating when you don't get the ball and then you see someone else shoot it like that. But at the same time, CJ's won us plenty of games doing that kind of stuff and having to do that kind of stuff. So I understand why he does it. I just wish in those type of situations he would act more like a point guard and a playmaker.
Yeah, I just wonder if it's somewhere like if we played a better brand of basketball collectively more consistently, if then individually the players would follow suit. You know what I mean?
Right. Of course. I think that's very true.
Yep. Next dono. Still let me know if this is the one after it. Okay, cool. Shaggy Squid, $5 Australian dono says, CJ still gets lost in the paint a lot while his man shoots open threes, but overall his defense improved. Sad we lost tonight, but decent job by Stotts tonight. I think that's the case for even Norman Powell did that tonight, where he kind of overhelped in the paint when he shouldn't have, and then, was a little slow closing out. Rocco's done, I thought like the help side defense was actually pretty good in the proper amount today. I felt like what really hurt us a lot of times was we weren't reacting to the kick out fast enough. We weren't reacting to the pass fast enough, and guys were like not giving 100% on rotating out quickly with the ball when the ball was in the air. It was almost like the ball would be passed, they would look to see where it's going, then they'd run there. But you should know like where your responsibility is. If I help from the corner, the weak side corner, and then the ball gets kicked out to my man, you should just start running there like right away if that's your responsibility. Or if it's somebody's job to rotate over and the ball's getting passed there and they know it's their job to get there, they should be moving right when that ball is passed. I felt like we were a little slow on that today. I felt like we've been slow in 2 years so I felt like that's really what was the biggest issue with our defense, because I thought, we played good defense in the paint. They didn't really get going off the pick and roll like teams usually do against us. They still had some success for stretches of the game, but our pick and roll defense was a lot better. We switched up the coverages of the pick and roll. I just felt like collectively rotating out to shooters and then having a good closeout, not overrunning the closeout, not biting on pump fakes, making good contest if they still shot. I felt like we were short in that area tonight.
Yeah, I agree with almost all that except for our defense on Tatum. He was getting to the rim, and I didn't feel like our help was good enough in stopping him before he gets into his shot at the rim. And then I felt like it was the opposite when it wasn't him driving. There was a couple times where he was left open in the corners or something, and that's where, like, in the first half, Powell overhelps, and they kick out to Tatum, who's wide open, and that's an easy three for him when we didn't necessarily need to help that much, especially not off of Tatum.
Yeah.
So I would like to see it to where we not only have better help defense, but it's up a little further to stop him from getting to the rim. But I mean, it's baby steps. You can't just go from not helping at all to helping perfectly every time.
Yeah, and I felt like it was better in the first half. In the first half, they shot 42% from 2. In the second half, they shot around 50% from 2. And I felt like just, with the eye test, you could notice that difference regardless. I felt like, it kind of broke down as the game went on. Maybe that's Boston adjusting and just making it more of a point of emphasis to just let Tatum go to work or whatnot. I don't know. But yeah, the first half, I thought, for the most part, it was good. The second half definitely broke down a little bit. I mean, the first half was weird. They're shooting 42% from 3, 42% from 2, and so that's you want them to hold them to that efficiency clip inside the arc. Outside the arc, you don't want them shooting 42%, but it's not like they hit like 13, 14 threes. I think they only had 6 at halftime. So we're giving up a high percentage from from 3. We were giving up a high percentage on their threes, but we weren't letting them get off a ton of threes at the same time, which is definitely part of it. So, I don't know. Read into that how you may. But overall, I think that kind of speaks to, us struggling to rotate back out a lot of times.
Yeah, I agree.
Next dono we got. You guys are absolutely killing it tonight. Where is it? Was it Mike B? Yeah. $5 dono from Mike B. What's up, Mike? What are your guys' opinions on the final Tatum 3 and Melo being in the game? Was that a fault on Stotts, or was there nothing he could do? I don't agree with his coaching in the final minute.
Let's get caught up on the donos and then go deep into this last minute here.
Yeah, that's what I want to do. And then Jimmy Cleveland, $5 dono, says, yes, the crucial possession in the fourth. I think that was in response to me asking when CJ should have passed Melo the ball. I mean, there's probably a time or two that you could come up with that CJ should have maybe made a pass there, or somebody else should have made a pass. But yeah, by the way, if you guys keep, I haven't really paid attention to chat, but if you keep repeatedly insulting people and mods warn you and you keep doing it, you risk being permabanned. We don't play that type of stuff. Be better than that. Yeah, that's all I got to say. And mods, if you could just warn people doing that not to do it, and put them in timeout. If people are throwing around personal insults at each other, then I'd appreciate it, because
discuss basketball. Don't go at certain people.
Yep, agreed. Next dono was play-by-play $5 dono. Melo only took one shot in the final 8 minutes. He was just out there basically. I would have liked to see Rocco out there down the stretch since Melo was quiet. And that's what we're talking about, where it's like, it'd be nice to have a quick hitter for Melo if Melo has it going, to be able to get him a shot and maybe keep his rhythm for a longer duration of time. Because the dude gets hot to start the fourth, but then in the final 8 minutes, one shot, it's like there's no point to even have him out there. Then just have the better defensive player out there then if, Melo's only going to shoot one shot. That's where I wish we had a quick hitter for him to be able to get him a couple looks when he has it going, to maybe get the most out of him having a hot stretch, so to say. So yeah, I agree with that, man. And the thing is, I'm not even necessarily blaming the players. It's like, if Melo's guarded, if Melo's spotting up and his guy isn't helping, what are you supposed to do? At that point, you just take the extra spacing and maybe it makes it easier to slash and create that way. I don't think it was something where, like, Melo got froze out necessarily. It's just the defense was paying more attention to him, where if he's, spotting up or off the ball, those guys, if Melo's hot, you're likely going to help off him less. So that's where I think we need a quick hitter or two to be able to continue to tap into that.
Yep, I completely agree. I've been saying that all year. We need, at times, especially in a game like tonight where Melo's on fire, there's no reason why we don't have set plays to get him the ball. Or run that play where Melo goes and sets a pick that I always talk about for Dame in the corner that also achieves Dave being off ball. And, Melo's in the corner and Dame goes and sets a pick for him. Melo curls towards the middle. If he's open, you give it to him. He's got to lay in or often draws a foul or an easy bucket there.
Yeah.
And if he's not open, that usually means Dame is one-on-one with someone, either a mismatch or is open for a three. So I just like running little plays like that, especially down in situations where we're not getting a shot who's basically carried the offense for long stretches in this game.
Yep, and Blockboy says, but he got buckets getting the ball in the post, so why not just go down to him there? Two reasons, right? He was able to get going because they were switching smalls onto him. That spin cycle we put Peyton Pritchard into was a good example, but they were switching smaller guys onto him, so we had a matchup advantage that we were playing into, and I felt like they didn't really do that the last bit in that fourth quarter. They weren't switching as much. They were doing a good job of not getting mismatched. But then I would rather have him curling off a screen and maybe shooting a 15-footer that he's stepping into that might be open than shooting what's guaranteed to be a contested fadeaway 15-footer, if that makes sense. So that's where I want those quick hitters to try and get him in that range shooting off the catch.
And that's why I say just set a cross screen if you're going to post him up. Because if he starts on the opposite side, you set a screen for him, even if it's a design post up, he gets the ball closer to that block in the 8 to 10 foot range versus where he normally gets pushed out to 12 to 15 feet. And then he's got when he shoots that fadeaway, he's a little closer. It seems so simple, but it's like we just put our players like they have to ISO or they have to post up way further than they should, and it's never anything to get them just a little better look. And I feel like just doing that would have really helped us in the fourth quarter of this game.
Yep. And then the next dono we had was Mills Woj. $2 dono says the rest. I don't necessarily know what that means, but appreciate it. Mills Woj. And then I think that's Candyman or Candleman, $5 dono says Nasir had a lot of energy out there. Stas needs to give him longer stints and just more minutes in general to get him more comfortable in the game. I agree with that. We had another dono that touches on that from Shaggy Squid with a $2 Australian dono. He says Nas with the 6-minute promotion. Hell yeah. Rest in peace. I don't get it, man. All this talk about him being promoted, then he barely plays. I don't know, man. Next year, hopefully, he gets a consistent chance of 20 minutes per game because I still think Nas could really help this team and provides a lot of what this team needs. I mean, just imagine Nas's athleticism, finishing ability, cutting ability in the offense that we utilized in the first half, the ball movement and the player movement that we utilized in the first half. He would fit into that very, very well. And so would Derrick Jones Jr. We didn't really see much of him in the second half. It felt like, I don't know. I need to pull up the box score here on my phone so I can know.
Nas played 6 minutes.
Yeah,
Derrick Jones 14.
Mm-hmm. I mean, yeah. And when Melo has it going, like Melo's gonna play more minutes. He ends up playing 28. It's just like, I don't know, man. I just feel like we could maybe get a guy like Dame or CJ or Norman Powell a little bit more rest. Norman Powell played 38 minutes tonight. Dame and CJ played 37. We could get them a little extra rest and be fine if we're moving the ball because Derrick Jones Jr. and Nasir Little are good cutters and good finishers around the rim. So if you continue to just move the ball and move players productively, those guys can provide you something offensively consistently that's positive. So I felt like maybe we could have gotten guys a little bit more rest, and then maybe down the stretch, maybe one of the shots that CJ misses falls, or one of the shots that Dame misses falls because they still have a little bit more of their legs underneath them because they're not playing 30. Maybe they're playing 34 minutes instead of 37. Doesn't sound like a huge difference, but it matters in the long run, in my opinion. So and then That's also the problem with those two playing with the bench is our bench kind of gets away from moving the ball, moving players like that. So that's kind of the issue. We need to be able to play that style of basketball with Nurkic out of the game, and we kind of got away from that when he was on the bench.
Yep.
So, shout out Mills Wosh. $10 dono says also we should have put pressure on these small centers to defend Nurkic. Joel just ate on the Celtics last week. It would have opened up the game more for our guards. Maybe. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how I feel about that. How do you feel about that, Eric?
See, I was thinking about why Kanter is such a good offensive rebounder versus Nurkic, and that's because Nurkic is often up top, being a playmaker or waiting for that pass to be a playmaker, and he's obviously, he came out and said it the other day that he's looking to be the passer because he feels like the team is selfish, but I do feel like he's not being as aggressive as he needs to be. I feel like he's one of the players that can get hot in the post sometimes. Sometimes he has the opposite where he finesses it too much and misses ones he should make. But he is one of the few guys who can not only post up, but post up and get to the rim when he posts up. Whereas, we have people like Melo who can shoot a turnaround shot. I'm not saying that's necessarily bad or not, but when you need a bucket, sometimes I wish we would just go to a straight post up and let him get an easy one maybe instead of forcing a bad shot. But and he can pass out of that too, so it's not like you're just ISOing him or doing something that's not going to result in ball movement. So you could have cutters off of that, or maybe an off-ball screen to get a three-point shooter into a different spot or something. So yeah, I kind of, obviously he played really well getting the ball and running the offense at the top of the key, but I just wish we could then translate that into using him in other areas of the court as well, and maybe he can get some easy buckets in addition to some of those other moves.
Yeah, I agree. It's just the offense works so well with him being a passer from the arc, that, it's not like a huge complaint of mine, but we could have definitely looked at it a little bit more. But let's just bring up Nurkic's stat line. So in the 26 minutes he played, Eric, 8 points, 9 rebounds, 7 assists. This should be a guy that's averaging 5 assists per game. And next year, if we have a new coach that prioritizes ball movement, I think he will be averaging 5 assists per game because he's too good of a passer. He's too good of an initiator. And there's so much good stuff that can happen off his ball movement where, the play where Norman Powell got the 3 after Dame, back cut, Nurkic fed Dame the ball, and then Dame kicked it out to Norman Powell. That's not even an assist for Nurkic. He had 7 assists in this game, but that's not an assist for Nurkic. But that's a great shot that was initiated from Nurkic making a great pass to Dame off the ball. So it's Dame didn't have to work to set that up. Instead, when we isolate and when we're super stagnant, Dame has to try and cross over a great defender and go into the trees and then contort his body and kick the ball out. And that's so much more work for Dame, It's compared to, he just jabs right, cuts left, catches the ball, passes it. I don't know. I like that he had 7 assists tonight. We need to make his playmaking a point of emphasis, no matter what situation it is, at a low post, at a high post, off the elbow, above the 3-point arc. It needs to be a big point of emphasis going into the playoffs for us to have success, in my opinion.
Yeah, and then 4 of his 8 points came, I think, on back-to-back possessions in the first half where he had that big dunk down the middle. And those were off of him just rolling down the middle off a drive and a nice pass by someone. I think Powell was one of them. I forgot who the other one was. But the thing about posting him up in some situations, if you had a cutter and the cutter's open, I feel like Nurk will hit the cutter almost every time. And I also feel like if he scores a couple times, I mean, he's a big boy. They're going to have to send a double at some point. And then you're talking about a situation where Nurk on his own will take advantage of that and find the open guys. So I think that's a way to exploit his passing even further, is by him being aggressive in the post could open up some other things where then the defense has to focus on that being a part of his game as well. And then they maybe miss a cutter or miss an open shooter in the corner because they double teamed. And he can easily pass over the top of those because he's bigger, and everyone says, well, Dame can't pass over him because he's too small or whatever, but Nurk definitely can in those situations.
Yeah. So I see a lot of stuff in chat about how people are frustrated with the moral victory, like quotes from the team in the post-game interviews. Play-by-play had a $3 dono, says, any chance we'll watch some interviews tonight? And probably not. Honestly, there's so much to talk about from this game. We're already an hour in, which is crazy, and we haven't even talked about the final minute yet. Mm-hmm. We're almost caught up on donos, though. But, I mean, here's the thing. Like, they played a much better brand of basketball tonight. Now, they needed to they got away from it a little bit, so I don't expect them to say that, given how, they talk in post-game interviews. But if they view this as, oh, we played a good brand of basketball, we need to do more of that, that's a good thing. I don't have a problem with that. You know what I mean? Like, I agree with that. Overall, this game, if you hold it to the standard of what they were doing against good teams in the past 5 games, it was a great game from them. Like, overall, I don't know. I wouldn't say it was great, but the standard was so low coming in, given how they've played against good teams, that this was a great game in comparison to those terrible ones. So, if they liked what they did tonight, I don't see how people have a problem with that, because I'm sitting here saying I liked a lot of what they did tonight. The thing is, they can't look at it like, oh, well, we liked what we did tonight. We still lost, but we liked what we did, and then be content with that, and then not focus on it as much, and then regress, right? Mm-hmm. They need to take what they've done tonight, and this needs to be a stepping stone going forward. We need to do more of that. We need to see if we can maybe expand upon that and be even better and play an even better brand of basketball. And if they do that, they will have a chance for success in the playoffs, because this is a talented roster that just needs to play a good style of basketball in order to be competitive. I haven't been high on it because their style of basketball has been horrible, but if they can turn this into a good brand of basketball down the stretch, then there is a little bit of hope.
Yeah, I still think defensively they have to improve by a lot, obviously, but like you said, baby steps. I mean, this team can't afford to have moral victories, so I get what chat is saying about that.
Yeah. As far as, and then Reese says, but let's not act like the Celtics are elite like the teams we've been playing. They've been worse than us. The Celtics are much better than their record, Reese, and you should know this. They've missed a ton of games due to injury this year from Kemba Walker, Marcus Smart. They're also 9-1 when Robert Williams III is starting, by the way. 9-1. They're 29-26 after this game, but they've been very, very bad in clutch games. They've had a very bad record in clutch games. If they had our record in clutch games, they'd be something like 20 games above 500. So they're on a razor's edge between being where they're at now at 29-26 compared to potentially being 15 games over 500. This is a team that's better than their record. Given the way the Blazers were playing, I was saying the Blazers were a team that's worse than their record would indicate, right? You can't just look. You should know, Reese. You can't just look at the record and base the team just solely off what their record is. The Celtics have been playing better lately. They're finally somewhat healthy. They didn't have Fournier tonight, but they had Marcus Smart. They had Kemba Walker. They had Jaylen Brown. Had Jason Tatum. Those 4 haven't been able to play much this year, and they haven't had luck in close games, basically. So they're a good team. They're 100% a good team.
Yeah, I mean, they're good. I wouldn't say they're great, and they don't have a lot of. They don't have a lot of. I don't know how to put this. They can't. I don't know if they can't, but they don't do a lot of the same things that a lot of other elite defenses do against us. Primarily, blitz Dame a lot. They do it some, but I don't think they are necessarily the perfect team to judge
Yeah,
whether
but
we're doing well or not.
But even if they blitzed a ton, we weren't really running a ton of Dame pick and roll, especially in that first half. So it's like,
Yeah.
even if they did, like, we're still playing better against it. It's not like we relied on Dame pick and roll during that first half, and, you know, I don't know. So, I don't know. It's like, if we got blown out, we'd be saying, oh, the Blazers can't be competitive against a good team. Here's another example. The Celtics are a good team. They're better than the record. But since we played a good style of basketball, I feel like now people are saying, oh, well, the Celtics aren't that good. You know, like, no, give the Celtics some credit. Give us some credit for playing a good brand of basketball against a good team for the first time maybe this entire year of 2021. You know what I mean? The Celtics are a good team. Of plain and simple. I would put them in the same tier as Miami. So, gonna have the same energy and hold them, you know, I don't know, I view them in the same light as Miami, so.
Yeah. But weren't you, like, looking at the schedule like a week ago, weren't you saying that these were winnable games against not the greatest teams?
I didn't say not the greatest teams. I said they weren't the Clippers or the Jazz, but they're still good teams.
I think you were saying they were like 500 or worse in their teams that we should win. And
where did I ever say we should beat the Celtics? I never said that.
I'm pretty sure you included both the Celtics and Heat as like 500 or worse teams. And
I said they were around 500.
Yeah.
You know, but that's like all I said. I didn't say this is a game we should win.
Okay.
I mean, it was basically what I was trying to say is it's not like a team that's quite as good as the Clippers or Utah. I think both these teams are a tier below, but they're still good teams. That'll be more of a test than the types of teams we've been playing for the majority of this season where we've had an easy schedule, if that makes sense. That was basically what I was trying to say.
Okay.
I don't know. Maybe it got lost in translation. Maybe I didn't word it the way I intended it. Either way, it's the Celtics are a good team. I wouldn't be surprised if they made a run in the East. I wouldn't even necessarily put the Sixers ahead of, like, in a tier above them. The Sixers have been better, but I don't know. Like, I could see the Celtics beating them in a series. I could see the Celtics basically beating any team in the East right now in a series other than maybe Brooklyn. So, anyway. But next dono we got is Kyle Wilson, $5 dono. Stops playing Melo over Nas is like if Pete Carroll decided to play Matt Flynn over Russell Wilson. Pure idiocy. Okay. I love Nas, but he's not Russell Wilson. I assume that's just a joke. To get at Block Boy, probably.
And I like Kyle Wilson as well, but I don't think this is the game to say that or make this comment. Not that against Nas, but Melo I thought played well tonight. Even though he was, you know, plus minus wasn't great, but like we said, that wasn't necessarily completely indicative on like who was on the court or whatever. So that's why I don't necessarily like looking at that. But I don't know. It's just like, yeah, I agree that Nas needs minutes. He needs to play. There's no reason he shouldn't be a part of the regular rotation, but I don't think it has to be him or Melo either. Like that we've seen the rotation be Melo and Nas come in that first substitution off the bench in the first quarter and the third quarter. But tonight, both times, I think it was Derek Jones with Melo instead. I mean, I don't know. It's hard to play. It's hard to play all those guys' minutes. But yeah, I don't think tonight was necessarily the night to make that comment. But overall, I mean, I would like to get Nas certainly more minutes.
Yep. I think he was trying to troll Block Boy, and Block Boy I can't talk. Block Boy played right into it and insulted him. I already told you not to personally insult him. I already warned you, so 5-minute ban. Let's just not do that. Okay. Let's talk about the final minute, all right? Because we're caught up on donos. They were nice to us and stopped donating. You know, they were nice to us and gave us a chance to get caught up on the donations. So appreciate it. The last minute, Eric, was the Blazers call a timeout, and then out of the timeout, I think there's like a handoff and Dame shooting a Fadeaway, long, 2-point shot, wasn't even square, and misses that. Okay, then it ends up in a situation where they have one free throw left, they're up one with 3.5 seconds left, and we don't have a timeout left, so they, at that point, it's like we're only going to be able to get a 3 off, so it doesn't matter if they're up 1 or 2, so you might as well just miss it, which was smart. Good call from Brad Stevens there. Brad Stevens tells Marcus Smart to miss. We get the rebound, have no hope of making anything. Dame tries to throw a baseball pass to the hoop from like 90 feet out of a double team. You know what I mean? Like, we couldn't get anything there. And it was frustrating because we could have gotten that shot that Dame got without calling a timeout. Instead, we used the timeout in order to get that shot, and then we don't have one for that final 3.5 seconds where we could have gotten the rebound. He probably would have tried to make it because we would have had a timeout. Because regardless, we get the rebound or take the ball out, we can call a timeout and advance the ball and have 3.5 seconds in the half court in order to get a shot up, which is more than enough time, but we didn't have that timeout because we wasted it on a play where Dame shoots a fadeaway, not squared, long step back 2. I had an issue with that.
Real quick before I get into this, let's just get Gray Hughes Investigates $10 donation. Thank you, man. He said, messed up your donation break. Nurk was a plus 19, and Nurk was really good in this game. But
Go ahead. Sorry.
Here's my problem. 50 seconds left. There's a dead ball, right?
Mm-hmm.
We have a situation. I think the next play was the Dame step back, right? Mm-hmm. Where if they score, we're calling a timeout. That's just how Terry operates, right? So we know we're calling a timeout, which we did after they scored. So we have a lineup with Dame, CJ, Norm, Melo, and Nurk. So we have Rocco, Derek Jones Jr., Nas, Rondé Hollis-Jefferson, who is an excellent defender. I'm not saying that he should necessarily be in these situations, but that's 4 decent to good defenders. We have on the bench, 50 seconds left, dead ball, and we have 3 of our worst defenders on the floor. And this is why our defense sucks balls, because they do not do things situationally well. So even the 3, so we're up 28, we're up 1, or we're down 1 with 28 seconds left, or I think it would end up being closer to 30 seconds. They get the ball. We decide not to foul. We end up with a mismatch with CJ on Tatum. He hits a 3, and we're down 4 all of a sudden instead of 1 possession. And once again, so we have Dame guarding, or CJ in the game guarding Tatum instead of a bigger Rocco or Derek Jones or something. And so, like, those kind of decisions by our coaching staff absolutely cost you games in the clutch. And we've been extremely lucky that we usually hit like a miracle shot or something, or the other team misses the Tatum 3, and we end up saving our butts. And you hear us all the time, well, our clutch defense has been so good in the games. Well, you know what? We gave up a wide open 3 to Luka Doncic in a game against the Dallas Mavericks, and he just happened to miss it. It wasn't like we played good defense on that or anything. So like plays like that, it just drive me crazy. There is no excuse for throwing. You could have thrown a Norm, Rocco, Derek Jones Jr., Nas, and Rondé Hollis-Jefferson lineup out there. Could have switched all picks. You would have had a lengthy defender on Tatum no matter who was guarding him. And I think decisions like that in a close game more often than not will cost you the game. And I'm not saying anything about that. I hate this because I'll hear the narrative. A good coach would never sit his star player in that situation. It's like bull crap. Like, good coaches sit bad defenders all the time in those situations. If they're not bringing it on the defensive end, this is part of holding your team accountable. And you mentioned CJ played good defense in this game. I felt like he played as good a defense as he could have on Tatum in the end there. But then again, like, maybe we should have fouled and not given him a chance to hit a 3.
I mean, it's just CJ's a undersized 2 guarding a 4,
Yeah.
What do you expect? Who has a high release point? Like, CJ did his very best. There's nothing else CJ could have done on that. Tatum stepping sideways, fade away. If you have a Derrick Jones Jr. or Rocco on him, could probably make that shot a lot more uncomfortable, and maybe he misses it. Defensive only possessions. It makes no sense not to play the best personnel for a defense only possession. That's just common sense. You could easily put out a lineup out there with like Norman Powell, Nas, Rocco, DJ, Rondé Hollis Jefferson, and could probably switch everything except for maybe Norm. Or if you want a big in there, Nurkic instead of Norm, if you want,
or Nas or something.
Yeah, or Nas or whatever. But a far better chance for a defensive stop in a defense only possession if you put out the best defensive players. But it's like we put out Dame, CJ, and Melo. And people will say, "Oh, you're just hating on Melo." No, everybody knows I'm the biggest Dame fan. Dame should not be out there on a defensive-only possession when we have the personnel we have to throw out there on a defensive-only possession. It just doesn't make sense. It's just common sense there. The situational basketball in the final minute was very, very bad.
And at least Dame this year, like a couple years ago, when he was playing better defense and he wasn't quite the liability he has been this year, absolutely, like maybe you could keep him out in those situations. But this year he has not been good defensively. We had several instances tonight where he sat on the floor pouting, not getting a foul call, and it takes him several seconds to get back on his man, and that it's impossible to have a good defense if you have players continually doing that. Nurk did the same thing, complained about several calls, didn't get back. But back to the that play. So not only do we have our offensive personnel in the game in that situation up one, but we call a timeout and we waste that timeout, like you said, and then we run a play that we could have easily ran without calling a timeout there. If we had our offensive personnel in the game, that's why you save the timeout and you just let them go without using the timeout in that situation. So it's absolutely horrendous coaching. I don't care what level you play at. You cannot win making that bad of decisions, both calling the timeout when you have your offensive personnel in the game and not having defensive personnel if you're going to call the timeout. Do one or the other, but don't do both. And then you won't be in a situation where you use the timeout in a stupid situation and then you don't have one at the end where there's 3.5 seconds left and you could have gotten a much better shot off and won the game possibly.
Yeah, if they use a timeout and draw something up to get a good shot, then I get using a timeout there when we had like 30 seconds left. But I mean, bro, we call a timeout and we throw it to Dame in the backcourt and he comes up and gets a pick and roll and shoots off of it. Guess what? We could have just thrown the ball into Dame without calling a timeout, run a pick and roll, and gotten the same exact shot. So it's just, I hate wasting a timeout in order to get a shot we otherwise could have gotten anyway, and then not having one with 3.5 seconds left. That's the issue, It's, if we had, another timeout, and we had a timeout with 3.5 seconds left after that, I wouldn't be complaining about using the timeout. I would have said we should have probably drawn something up a little better than just a pick and roll and Dame shooting that type of shot. Some people were happy with it because it was an open mid-range or whatever, but I felt like with how good of looks we got in the first half, if we just tried to do something like that, we could have gotten an even better one. But regardless, it's more so the fact that it's just like we would have had a possession that we didn't get at all, basically, at the end there, simply because we drew something up that we otherwise would have ran anyways. I don't get it.
And if you use your timeouts, only having one timeout there, I don't feel like you can play the not foul game and just let the time run out, because if they hit a three like that, then you're screwed. And then we have to use the timeout to advance the ball because the time would have ran out if we don't. So we have to use it there. And then the play we draw up is, Norm Powell hits it, but the play was for him to shoot like a 32-foot shot from the sideline. Like that was the best shot we could get in that situation. I guess he was open, but
I'd say this, given the fact that we didn't have a timeout left after that, we needed to shoot right away. You know,
Right.
we need, like, with 7 seconds left, it's like, without a timeout, you got to shoot right away. We still didn't have enough time. You know what I mean? We shot that right away. So, that I kind of get. Great shot by Norm, by the way. He didn't seem to really be a part of the offense down the stretch, so which kind of sucked. But I mean, you saw how effective he was when we moved the ball, though. In the first half,
Yeah.
I thought he had a great first half, but went away from it, sadly.
And he was moving the ball well too. We heard that he wasn't much of a passer, but I've seen him make several great passes on drives and stuff like that. I'd like to see him maybe explore his playmaking potential a little bit.
Yep, that pass he had to Nurkic was impressive, where he got caught in the air. Yep. That was an impressive pass. What's up, Definitive One? He has a $15 dono.
Definitive One.
He says, I know you guys don't like to ask, but everybody smash the likes. It's free and helps gets the content to more viewers. Agree 100% on needing defense and length. In on that last Tatum shot. Inexcusable facepalm emoji. Appreciate Definitive One. For Definitive One's sake, hit the like button. Just because he asks you, we normally don't ask for that, but hit that like button if you want to, if you enjoy what we're doing tonight. Appreciate everyone. The dono from Definitive. Yeah, so let's talk. We talked about the final minute. Is there anything else you want to touch on the final minute there?
Like JMX points out, the last 5 minutes, it pretty much was all 3-pointers outside of that Dame long two. So yeah, it's. I mean, we hit a bunch of them, but didn't outside of Dame. I think shot 2 free throws. Didn't really get much like attacking the rim or with aggression to get to the line and get some easy points that way. Whereas Boston, Tatum did get to the line in that last minute as well. But yes, so yeah, I mean, live by the 3, die by the 3. That's what they're gonna do. So
yeah, I mean, yeah, just run the offense more like we did in the first half, and you'll have success. The thing is like it raises the floor of our offense if we run it like we did in the first half, because Dame didn't have like a huge impact. I think he made 4 or 5 shots, and CJ only made 2 shots and was 2 for 9, but we still scored 60 points. It's just better basketball, and it's much harder to guard. And I think if we ran offense like that, Dame and CJ would have better shooting nights than they had tonight. Because I thought they got some of the best looks they got all season long for stretches there. Dame got some great looks in the first half. He got the best looks he's gotten in a long time. He got a wide open layup. He might have gotten 2. I don't know if I'm forgetting one, but he got a wide open layup. He got a wide open 15-foot jumper, passed to Nurkic in the middle of the paint. Nurkic was patient, tried to make a move to score, but spun, and Dame's guy kind of helped off Dame, and he just kicked it right back out to Dame for a wide open 15-footer. Dame didn't have to step back or fade away. Dame was squared, like he's cashing that in most times, So Dame got some good looks and didn't really have to work so hard. And that's the thing, man. It's like, I'd rather have Dame have 10 points with the offense having 60 points total in the first half than for Dame to have 20 points with the offense having 60 points, but Dame expends 3 times more energy to do so. You know what I mean? Like, I thought Dame got... the offense was perfect for Dame because he barely had to work to make the offense score 60 points, and he got some good looks off of it.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't have a lot of problems with Dame's shot selection tonight. Yeah, I like him getting easy baskets. I think we're doing such a huge disservice to him by not playing him off the ball more. And I thought tonight was a perfect example of if he was he doesn't really have to do much. It's just like pass the ball and move around a little bit, and sometimes you find yourself open, and sometimes Nurk makes a crazy pass that happens to get right through Smart's arms, and you're wide open and get a lay-in out of that, and stuff like that would just be huge if we could get him just even 2 or 3 open lay-ins or open threes a game combined. It's like just think how much more efficient this guy would be on top of his already good efficiency.
Yeah, exactly. And he still got 10 assists, too. So the thing is like, we're still like his playmaking, you still saw it, even though he's being played off the ball. A lot of times he was catching the ball in situations where the defense had to like give him a lot of attention, and then he was making the right pass off of that, and we were getting open looks. So, you still are able to, like, he's still able to be a playmaker off those situations. He just doesn't have to break down the defense off the dribble one-on-one or off the pick and roll and split and double team in order to make things happen. He can catch the ball without having to, he can catch the ball in a position of strength without having to work so hard to get there, so to say. But then he can still make the right plays off of it. Something that I'm looking at here. Eric, so how many turnovers do we have in the first half last game against the Heat when we were running pick and roll in isolation the whole time?
It was 12.
12 turnovers. Tonight, we moved the ball very, very well, I'd say. How many turnovers did we have the entire game? 14. 14 turnovers the entire game. I don't know how many total we had last game, but I'm pretty sure it was more than that. I thought more ball movement meant more turnovers.
Yeah, I thought we had some bad ones in the fourth quarter. But real quick, let me just clarify something. Strider said something about how we rewatched the last minute and they couldn't have substituted defense on the Tatum 3. I was talking about the possession with 50 seconds left for substituting, and that we called a timeout anyway, and then we could have put our offensive stuff back in the game. But if we make that shot or do something different there, then they don't call a timeout or we foul in that situation. So there's so many different things we could have done. But I was referring specifically the first time to the 50 seconds left possession, not the one where Tatum hit the 3 with.
And I was misremembering the exact situation on the Tatum 3. But regardless, we've seen this for years where the team will be like up 3 with 3 seconds left. Just needs one defensive stand in the final 3 seconds, and they'll put out a guy like Melo and Dame and CJ and keep a guy like Derrick Jones Jr. or Robert Covington on the bench with 3 seconds left on a defensive possession. You know what I mean? Like, so, it's something that's always happened regardless of like what, if I'm misremembering the exact situation on that Tatum 3.
Yep. And also, I mean, there was, 4 or 5 timeouts in that last minute. I think there was plenty of time to sub personnel out on most possessions. And like I said, if you keep your offensive team out there, why call a timeout in that situation? So either way, it was botched all around.
Yep, I agree.
But yeah, the ball movement. I think. I mean, I've never subscribed to that. I think getting Dame trapped in pick and rolls is just as likely to end up in more turnovers, and we've seen him struggle at times to throw the ball out of those than a free-flowing offense that's designed to move the ball. And I don't know. I get so sick of hearing that we don't have the personnel to run an offense that features passing. It's just I think it's such a disservice to these guys. You look at someone like Bam, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I hear this all the time, like, oh, we should have drafted Bam instead of Zach Collins. You think that guy would be averaging as many assists as he does if he was on this team? He was not. He was like a big man that could rebound and finish around the rim. He couldn't shoot. He couldn't pass. Like he had none of those skills until a couple years into the league. Actually, he didn't really display a lot of that until last year, his third year in the league. So, like, if we had that guy on the team, people would be saying, oh, Bam, we can't run that offense because we have Bam and he's not a passer, so what are we supposed to do, right?
Exactly.
And that's my problem with it, is we don't even know if these guys would work in these kind of offenses because we don't do that. And Bam, I mean, it's backed up by Bam's assist percentages and stuff like that were really low their first couple of years, and then everyone's like, same with Draymond Green. We talked about this last time. Draymond Green actually worse than some of Cantor's seasons passing the ball his first couple of years. But like people want to say, like, oh, they were just destined to be great passers. You can't hold people like that back or whatever. But you see a guy like Nurkic too, Mason Plumlee. Mason Plumlee wasn't a great passer, but he came to this team and becomes like, through our playoff run, like a go-to point center kind of guy and makes plays for us. So like I don't know, it's just I feel like Nurkic didn't pass a lot in Denver, and he comes here, and all of a sudden you're like, wow, this guy has a ton of skills. So it can work the other way too. I just feel like NBA players, for the most part, can make passes if they're designed out of the offense. And you might not get like a dime pass, bounce pass to a cutter that passes him open for a lay-in like Nurk does or like Draymond Green does occasionally. But honestly, a lot of those guys' assists are just within the flow of an offense and passing out to an open shooter or making a pass to a wide open cutter. That doesn't take a lot of skill. You don't need to be like an elite passer to make those plays.
Yep, I agree with that. And that's what I've said numerous times is like hindsight bias on the draft annoys me because you don't know how different players are going to develop in different situations. You know, if Collins goes to the Heat, maybe, you know, butterfly effect, maybe he doesn't get injured. You know, obviously, like, things are going to be different. You know, maybe he doesn't get injured, and then maybe he develops into, I mean, probably not what Bam is right now, but he might be a better player than if he went to Miami and Bam went here, you know, and Bam would probably still be the backup center and basically play the Ed Davis role. And people might be saying, oh, we should have taken Zach Collins instead. You know what I mean? So, like, hindsight bias on that is a little frustrating to me because people just assume whatever a player becomes, they would have become they would have become that anywhere. You know what I'm saying? So, Miami gave Bam responsibility as a passer and a playmaker, and he grew into what he is now. Without him being given that responsibility, who knows if he becomes the same type of player.
Yep, and I mean, for all we know, Collins could be down there being Bam right now, averaging 5-6 assists a game. He's a smart player. And when we're talking about Zach, let me just say this. This guy, his first 2 seasons was completely healthy, and I don't know if he missed many, if any, games his first couple of years. And then he earns a starting spot, gets hurt in the 3rd game, and hasn't been healthy since. But going into that season, so I heard a lot of people talk about how, like, Olshey had such a bad offseason that year, blah, blah, blah. Like, we shouldn't have put faith in Collins. He's too injury prone. The dude was not injury prone when we made that decision. Like, that happened after that. And then he comes back and then gets hurt again. That's hard to plan for or to account for. But this guy was absolutely progressing to be that guy. And I think we've invested enough in him to where he'll still be they'll still give him a chance moving forward. But I just want to put that out there that it wasn't the decision to turn to Collins in that role that was done by Olshey. It was unfortunate for the injuries, and that's where the injury excuse comes into play for both Stotts and Olshey, is they expected Zach Collins to be the starting center and be the backup basically to Whiteside last year, and then they expected to have him at some point with the mix this year as our defensive center instead of having Cantor. So you could mix up if you needed offense or rebounding or whatever. You could play Cantor, and if you needed defense, you could play Collins, or you could play them together or whatnot. So not having Zach this year kind of threw a wrinkle into both of those situations, and I don't think that's anyone's fault necessarily.
Yeah. I haven't given up on Zach Collins. That's a conversation for a different time, though. I have a question. Okay, so after the Heat game, you had some people trying to say Cantor is better than Nurkic, yada yada. The team was 37 points better with Nurkic on the floor tonight than Cantor, Eric. I mean,
that was after the Detroit game, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think so. You know, and I mean, like, I'm not trying to hate on Cantor or anything, but Nurkic is the better player. He's the better defender. He's a much better passer. He provides 2 things that this team needs that Cantor doesn't. You know, Cantor is great at what he does well, but we need to move the ball better, and you can do that by utilizing Nurkic as a playmaker, sparking a lot of the situations where we saw good ball movement, especially in that first half. And then defensively, I mean, Nurkic is far and above what Cantor can bring us. So I don't know. People are so reactionary, and you called it, Eric. We just need CJ and Nurkic back, and then when they get back and we still have issues, it's automatically their fault because people are expecting them to magically fix everything when the issues we were having weren't because of them. The issues we've had all season long weren't because we were missing them and aren't because we have them. It transcends personnel, but a lot of people just want to base everything off personnel. So it's wait till we get those guys back. Oh, they're back? Oh, well, they're the issue then.
Yep. I think you caught this, but our boy Danny Meringue had the tweet today that basically defense is an instinct and a skill that players have when they're drafted, and that no coach can change that or fix that, or it's very rare to do so. And so he's saying that basically we draft all these guys. Where he messed up though was he said that Trent was drafted for defense, and that wasn't the case at all, because Trent was not known as a defender at all. He was nothing but a three-point shooter in college, and actually that was something that he really had to work on. But just the premise that basically they can't be a good defensive team because they have all offensive personnel and they can't do anything. So
that's not even true.
Several people brought up, well, how do you explain then bringing in Robert Covington and Derek Jones and the defense still not getting better? And of course it was, because we have Dame and CJ and Cantor and Melo, and they'll never be a good defensive team as long as they have the Dame and CJ pairing and all this crap. And then we got, so then we say well, how do you explain New York Knicks then? They were a crappy defense last year, and this year they're one of the best defenses. And I made the sarcastic comment that, it must have been because they drafted Obi Toppin, because that's what you're saying. It can only be if you draft defensive-minded guys, right? Which Obi Toppin isn't even a defensive-minded guy. But, don't give Tibbs any credit for that. So then he's like, oh, well, if you do that, if you focus that much on defense, it's at the expense of ruining your offense. But that's a completely different point, right?
Yeah.
So he's basically saying, you can focus on defense, you can improve the defense, but when it comes to that, it ruins the offense. But that's not what he was saying. He was saying you can't make a bad defense good or whatever, which is absolutely, he just contradicted himself, because he just said you can, it just ruins the offense, which is not what he said at all. And I don't think it would ruin the offense if we had a defensive coach or a defensive emphasis.
Why do we really have to focus in practice in order to run isolations and pick and rolls in games? I mean, come on now, man. It'd be one thing if we had, this elaborate motion offense, the Warriors run. That takes some work. But the offense we've ran all season doesn't take any practice at all. It's been rat ball offense, that Dan Meringue himself will say is so complex. Nobody just understands the intricacies. Well, I don't even think Stotts knows the intricacies of his own offensive system then. I mean, last in the league in ball movement and passing and assists and player movement, all that type of stuff, man.
First and contested shots.
Yeah, but it's just oh my goodness, man. What's funny is, you remember when Brook Lopez was considered a Cantor-esque defender early in his career? Now he's one of the better rim protectors in the league. How'd that happen?
I don't know.
I mean, players aren't born good defenders, man. They aren't, players get drafted as mediocre defenders, and then they can become some of the better defenders in the league. I mean, Gary Trent Jr. was not drafted as a defensive player. He's looked at as a mediocre defender, and we've seen him put in the work he's been inconsistent, but we know he has the ability to be good now. Dame, when he was coming into the draft, was looked at as a guy who should be a decent to good defender. And, he's been, for the most part, below average during his career. So that whole narrative is just, that's what I talked about last stream, or I think it was on Blazers Uprise Live, where people that want to make excuses and excuse thoughts just will flip-flop all over the place, man, and just be super inconsistent with their points and just make up stuff that doesn't make any sense. It just baffles me how a guy who is I don't think he's ever been coached up defensively himself because I don't think he played or anything. So he's never even gotten to experience what being coached the game of basketball is like beyond maybe Pee Wee, YMCA. I don't know. But like he's so... No, Meringue.
Oh, Meringue.
You know, like I don't think he played high school basketball or college basketball. And I mean, I don't know. It's like you've never experienced basketball coaching, but you're so adamant on what basketball coaching is and can't be. I don't know. That's just silly to me.
And then at the end of arguments, he'll just say, well, coaching doesn't matter anyway. And, and that's just such crap. But, yeah, anything to defend. But the thing, it's weird to me because they always, when you say, like, Stotts can't coach defense, well, what about 2 or 3 years ago when he was 8th and 16th? Exactly. What about those years? We had Dave and CJ and these guys you were complaining about on the roster, and we were good on defense those years. So why can't we get back to that
Doesn't make
in
sense,
the future?
man.
And it's because we don't have any sort of different schemes, or we're still running the same basic crap we ran back then, and teams have figured it out, and we don't make adjustments to it. And it's just weak arguments. And anyone who argues like that is just basically they're just going to, no matter what the information tells you, they're going to say otherwise. And I mean, I would love to sit here and be wrong and have the Blazers be the best defense for the rest of this season and stuff like that. But these guys are saying Stotts is a good coach, but like there's nothing he can do to make that happen. Like there's no chance of that happening. This team isn't even very good on defense. I listened to an interview with Jason Quick, and they asked him a similar question, like, well, they have this personnel, like how can they be good on defense? And Quick was like, are you kidding me? They have the personnel to be like 15th. They should be that at least or better in his opinion. And yeah, I don't know. I just wish that people would stop making excuses for this guy, because at the end of the day, whether you think he has an impact on defense or not, he has zero impact, right, what he's doing. And it's not getting better, and we're not getting any better on defense. There's little to no improvement the last 2 years with defense. And I'm sorry, but if you think that's acceptable for a head coach to not even be able to get his team to show a little bit of improvement on that end, and the only way he can do that is if he has really good defenders at every position, your system sucks, and you don't deserve to be the coach, in my opinion.
Yep. Shout out play-by-play $5 donor. He says, great stream, guys. Have a great night, and I'll catch y'all again soon. Appreciate the donos tonight. Play-by-play. You have a good rest of your night. Wanted to get that dono shout out in there before he left. Eric Olson says Meringue is known in NBA reporting circles as a joke. I mean, the dude is very, very confident, man. I was listening
going at everyone with the stupid arguments today. Yeah.
Man, like, I don't know. Like, I don't care what he says to me. When he's, like, condescending towards, like, Zach or towards, like, you know, one of my boss or just somebody I'm cool with, that's when I get annoyed. Yeah. And that's what he was doing today. So, it just annoys me, man. It's funny because Go ahead.
What do you pull out today? Like, cool story, bro, but or something like that.
Yeah, it's just like, bro, you're like 35. I mean, I don't know. But he can't make it work like you do. You know what I mean, Eric? Like you make it work because you're actually cool. But he's trying to. I don't know. I don't know where I'm going with that. I can't hate on somebody for being 35 when you're 41.
Yeah. Thanks, man. Speaking of other media, did you happen to catch that we were mentioned on the Mike Richmond Locked On Blazers pod?
Oh, really? Good or bad?
I'd say neither. It wasn't bad at all.
Okay.
It wasn't like great either, but my man Sir Weezy on Twitter, great guy. He says, or he asked a question for their mailbag or whatever about the Derek Jones comment or whatever. And so Richmond said that he actually didn't even think about the comment being bad initially, or missed it or something, or like it didn't even register with him that he was necessarily throwing him under the bus until he saw some Reddit thread with our reaction to it. It was probably just that little 10-second clip or whatever. So
Yeah.
it was kind of out of context.
Uh-huh.
But yeah,
It's just me going, bruh.
so he said shout out, and he was like, wait a minute, I wrote down the name of the thing just to give them credit or whatever. So he talked about it for a little bit and
Cool.
how he ended up coming to the conclusion that it didn't really seemed to him like it was throwing him under the bus or a bad comment, but he thought our reaction was really funny, and he said shout out to those guys or something. I don't know if he was like mocking us or not, but like it was.
I mean,
it wasn't like in a bad way.
He's mocking us, that's better than what we normally get, so I'll take it. I mean, I don't know. You guys know we try and entertain you guys too, on top of provide the analysis that we do. So if Mike Richmond found our reaction to a Stotts quote entertaining, then that's cool. I'll take that. I'll be happy about that, because normally it's you guys are donkeys and clowns and flat earthers.
Yeah. So the thing is, so I started writing, and then I realized we had, possibly the website back up and ready to go. So I was starting to write, and I'm like, wait, why don't I just turn this into an article? So I'm working on an article explaining like the differences between like statistically Derek Jones Jr. last year and this year, and how there's no way he shouldn't have had at least some impact on the we're 29th without him and 29th with him, that kind of argument, and especially coming from our coach, and why he's not using him correctly. And so like it started out, I just wanted to respond to Mike saying, hey, just a little context. We were really upset initially when Derek Jones was signed because we knew that Stotts wasn't going to use him correctly at all, which has now come to fruition. But we also were kind of excited when Olshey makes the comments, I brought in some new personnel, we're going to see different schemes. Stotts seemed to agree that he needed to change things up and stuff like that. Like Gordon mentions in chat, we knew that he was going to be used like Evan Turner was, and not like use his skills at all. And so like his attempts from 2 have gone down, his 3-point attempts have gone up, things like that. So I started digging into it just to respond to him and let him know, hey, this was kind of a funny reaction because we initially were so down on the signing because of the way we knew Stotts would be like this with him, and then we were kind of like, oh wait, maybe things will be different because we signed him, but we were fooled into thinking that, and they just are completely wasting his talent. So that's why we overreacted to that comment, maybe from his perspective, because of how much crap we got for our initial reaction, and now it's coming full circle back to that.
Yes. So I'll tweet that out, or Eric will tweet that out, because you can tweet from Blazers Uprise YT. Our channel Twitter page, once we start dropping articles and whatnot, we'll tweet those out. The channel's Twitter page is at Blazers Uprise YT. Right now I'm trying to finalize kind of my initial roster of writers. Can add to that if I need to, but if you're interested in writing, and I haven't reached back to you, maybe you emailed me and somehow I missed it, or you haven't reached out to me yet. If you're interested in potentially writing, reach out to me. Now, I might have to turn some people down, and I honestly don't, that feels kind of bad doing that.
Don't take it personally.
Yeah, so don't take it personally or whatnot. I would probably feel worse than you if I end up turning you down potentially. But if you are interested in writing, reach out to me. If you've written before, that's definitely good. We're going to try and get the website off the ground. Have been working on finalizing basically the writers that I will have for the site. So I've reached back to a lot of them, and we're going to be getting that going. So some written content on top of what we provide you. We're expanding. And then next season, we'll try and make that more of a point of emphasis. Like during the off season, I'll try and like really formulate a game plan for that.
Yeah. Is there merch still available, or is that? Yeah,
merch should still be available. I don't think right now you can buy with a credit card, but I think you can pay with a debit. I'm not sure. I have to make sure. I have to look into it. I'm not entirely sure on that answer. So if, I'll get back to you. Yeah, see, I gotta set up a whole nother like merch provider than I have set up because I don't want the green underbill. You know what I mean? Like it just doesn't fit. I don't like it. So I want to get the written stuff like kind of going and then look at merch after that. So that's kind of like the step after kind of getting some writers going. But yeah, we're expanding, been starting to upload on Spotify, had a couple issues with that. Spotify, like it doesn't take it doesn't take WAV files. It only takes MP3s. And I edited the Blazers Uprise Live yesterday on my laptop, and then I could not export it as an MP3. I can export it as an MP3 on my main computer, but I edited it all on my laptop, so I tried to upload it to a cloud. It wouldn't upload to a cloud, just a lot of issues yesterday. So just, behind the scenes YouTube stuff you guys never hear about, but I am trying to consistently get that going with Spotify. If I miss, an upload, it's likely ran into some issues, and that's what happened yesterday with the Blazers Uprise Live episode. But this one, we'll get this one on to Spotify and Google Podcasts, and I still need to set up Apple Podcast, whatever it's called, iTunes Podcast, whatever, for you guys, so that you guys can listen in a convenient way if you're on the go or whatnot. So trying to expand and do a little bit more for you, and hopefully you enjoy that. But yeah, if you're interested in writing, reach out to me. BlazersUprise@gmail.com is how you should reach out to me, by the way, if you're interested in writing for us. So yeah. Want to go around the NBA really quick?
Yeah, and then I have a couple of unrelated to the game tonight, but Blazer notes to discuss.
Okay, let's go around the NBA, then we'll wind it down with those notes. I'll go quick with this. Nets beat the Timberwolves by 30, 127-97. KD has 31 points. Anthony Edwards, 27 points, 8 rebounds. The Clippers beat the Pacers 126-115. Paul George had 36 points, 8 assists, 7 rebounds. Malcolm Brogdon, 29 points. Did you see that clip that was stuck replaying over and over again on TNT from that Pacers game?
Yeah, because I was at work and I was trying to watch the first half on my computer. It wasn't working. And then from there on out, it kept glitching out. So I had to switch to trying to watch it on my phone. And then I tried to get some sort of stream elsewhere, and that wasn't working. Yeah, it was just.
But it was the one with like Domantas Sabonis like flipping his hair back. That was something. I haven't seen that before. That was funny. So yeah, I guess that was like on cable. I guess it was just TNT. I don't know. Did they ever say what happened with that, or did they just pretend like that never happened? Chat, let me know, because I watched it. I watched the first half on Blazers broadcasting, and then like 4 minutes left, I'm like, oh yeah, I was gonna check back in with TNT because I like watching on TNT, just for the change of pace. I like watching nationally televised games on national TV. Other NBA action: Hawks beat the Raptors 108-103. Clint Capella has 19 points, 21 rebounds. Pascal Siakam has 30 points, 6 assists. Let's check in on Gary Trent Jr. I heard he had a rough one today. Gary Trent Jr. was 3 for 15 from the field, 0 for 7 from 3, 7 points, 4 rebounds, 2 assists, 2 steals. Not a good game from him. Played 35 minutes. So his production has varied wildly as a Raptor, because he just had a 44-point career high and now 7 points, 3 for 15.
Yep.
The Lakers beat the Hornets 101-93. The Hornets could not give us any help. Dennis Schroeder had 19.6 assists. Caleb Martin had 17 points, 10 rebounds, 5 assists for the Hornets. The Jazz beat the Thunder 106-96. Rudy Gobert has 13 points, 14 rebounds. Lou Dort had 42 points, 7 rebounds, and 3 assists. Eric, you remember at the end of my first stream, it was the draft stream of 2019. Lou Dort went undrafted, and I was saying, let's sign this guy to a two-way. Well, now he's dropping 40-point games, and he's a defensive player. So,
well, it doesn't matter. We would have signed him, and then he would have gone to OKC this year instead of last year, and then everyone would have been like, oh, well, he just has getting a chance on OKC that he wouldn't have gotten here, and even though we wouldn't have used his defensive talent at all.
Yep, he would have been a year behind, basically, Yep. So, if Moses Brown just went there immediately, Moses Brown would be dropping 40-point games by now, right? So, tough, man. But only 2 other games. The Suns beat the Heat. The Heat could not help us out. The Suns held the Heat to 86 points. 86 points. 106 to 86 was the final score there. Ayton had 19 points, 13 rebounds. Jimmy Butler, 18 points, 8 assists. The Suns have become a great defensive team. I thought the Suns were overrated going into this year because they were a bad defensive team last year, and they had Chris Paul and Jay Crowder, but I didn't think, that would take their defense from very bad to very good. But would you look at that? Adding a couple good defensive personnel pieces improved their defense, I guess. What else changed there? I don't know, man. Actually, wait, no, that's the narrative we speak against. I just mixed them up. Anyway, personnel. And there's the ESPN ad. Nope, I don't care about your recording studio. What were they ranked last year in defense? Do you know?
Who was that?
The Suns.
I'll look it up for you.
Because I feel like
they had Ricky Rubio, so it's not like Chris Paul
you're right.
A completely... I mean, he's obviously way better than Ricky Rubio, don't get me wrong, but they did have a little bit of a focus on defense last year.
Yep.
So yeah, they're currently 5th this year. Last year, they were 17th.
Okay, so they weren't as bad as they were thought to be. But, I don't hear as much about Devin Booker being a bad defender. I don't know. I mean, obviously, we're cool with the Valley Podcast guys. Ayton has... Okay, so the whole narrative of, you are who you are as a defender when you get drafted. Ayton was considered a mediocre to below average defender when he got drafted. Now, at least according to the Valley Podcast guys, his best ability is defense. Now he's a really good defender, and offensively he's not what he was supposed to be. So that kind of puts, I don't know, the whole narrative that you are who you are as a defender when you're drafted, it can't be coached into you. DeAndre Ayton has developed a ton defensively since he got drafted 3 years ago. That's what I was trying to say from the get-go. You know what I mean? Obviously, good defensive pieces help. They should have helped us, but they haven't. Final game was Celtics beating us 116-115. Celtics 29-26. We fall to 31-23. That is around the NBA, the disconjointed version. Let's look at the standings real quick. Probably not much change here. The Blazers still a game and a half ahead of the Mavericks for 7th, but most metrics say the Mavericks are likely to pass us. They have a much easier schedule than we do down the stretch. We are 2.5 games behind the Lakers, and we are 3 games behind the Nuggets, who have lost Jamal Murray for the season with a torn ACL. You absolutely hate to see that for Jamal Murray and for the Nuggets. Out of all the teams in this Western Conference playoff run, if it's not us, I'd rather it be the Nuggets than the Clippers, than the Lakers, than the Jazz, probably. It'd be cool to see the Suns make it for the Valley Pod guys, but I don't have much against Denver. They've never really felt like a rival. I've always enjoyed watching Jokic and Murray play.
Well, Murray is now out for
that's
a very
what
long
I'm
time.
Saying. Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. It sucks that Murray is it goes down with that at the worst time, man, because he's likely going to miss the majority of next season too. Hopefully he can be back by playoffs for them. And they're already thin on guards as it is. We were thin on front court players and lose Nurkic, and it was rough on us. They're thin on guards, so it'll be interesting to see who steps up. Campazzo is going to have to step up, man. Good old Campazzo is going to have to step up for them or something. I don't know. But tough news out of Denver for Jamal Murray.
Yeah, very tough.
Yep. Anyway.
Somehow we got to find a way to match up with them in the first round now.
Yeah. I mean, AD's been injury prone, though. Honestly, the Lakers without AD, I'd take them, too. Yeah. Just guard LeBron.
Guess what, Tori?
What?
We did not gain any ground on the Lakers without AD and LeBron, and now they're about to come back.
Really? Interesting, man. I thought how's that possible? We're healthy and they're not. So obviously we should have automatically passed them.
Wait, no, Tori, we still do not have Zach Collins. Come on now.
Oh, yeah.
We only have 13 of our 14 guys healthy right now.
Man, if only we had our starting power forward, Zach Collins, man. Yeah. I mean, how do you expect us to be able to gain ground on the Lakers when we don't have Zach Collins?
Yep. Right. Agree says Zach Collins is equal to them losing both AD and Braun.
Exactly. Gonzaga legend Zach Collins. Anyway, what are the two notes you wanted to end off with?
Oh, actually, I have four now, real quick.
Oh, wow. Okay, they
So
multiply.
real quick. So, Danny Meringue had a reply to one of his tweets saying, "Classic Stotts defense. Good teams play defense for 4 quarters, not Stotts' last 5 minutes of game." To which Danny Meringue replied, "Shout out to Trevin for sending me this. I checked the box score to be sure, and yep, Stotts didn't register any minutes played tonight."
Well, at least he admits that he only bases his coaching off the box score.
Yep. So yeah, that's his smart aleck answer to why our defense does not improve because Stotts doesn't actually play on the court. So there you have it. So one of the other things, going back to that quick interview, he was asked specifically after they had talked about whether Stotts' job was in jeopardy, which Quick thinks it absolutely is, and that it just seems like it's headed towards a divorce there this summer. But he was asked specifically if they have a plan, because if you fire up a coach like Stotts, you have to have a guy in mind already in line to be the next coach, and you better have someone really good as your next candidate. And Quick's answer was very interesting to me. He said they have a plan, but he doesn't want to talk about it at this time.
What?
Yes.
What does that mean? Steve Kerr?
No, I think... Okay, so this is just all speculation. He wouldn't say anything. He's like, he's going to protect his source on that. He doesn't want to put any pressure. But this is the most confident I felt since Stotts has become coach that this is actually a thing that's going to happen if he does not change anything. Just pure speculation guess. It's got to be Vanderpool, in my opinion, because it's someone who's been with Dame and CJ, been with the roster. If you're talking about during a season already having a plan to target someone, that would be the kind of guy, Dame is already mad that he's gotten passed over. He's a minority candidate, so that is really good to hire, minorities and stuff like that and get as many of those guys into positions of power in the NBA as possible. So that was my guess, was that if they did have a plan, that would be their first guy they interviewed and go after there. I'm not saying that's what I want to do. I'm just guessing during the season, if they're already formulating a plan for if that happens, he's probably going to be at the top of their list, because it's not like Minnesota who hires Chris Finch in the middle of the season because they had just interviewed him like a year and a half ago for their open coaching job. We haven't interviewed coaches in 9 years. So there's not like a lot of guys that you would say, oh, I remember him from this interview. I thought about hiring him, but now I want to give him a shot or whatever. So I think David Vanderpool makes sense as the guy they would target first. Who knows if they would end up hiring him. But yeah, other than that, that could be someone like a Becky Hammond or someone we've heard Dame say that he hopes that she gets a head coaching job or something.
I agree with your speculation that it would be Vanderpool, though.
Yeah.
Honestly. Just like the Dame factor, I don't know. Maybe it's a situation where Dame wants Vanderpool over Stotts. I mean, Dame doesn't want Stotts out, but, bro, I'll take Vanderpool because our defense was better when he was here. I feel like he'd be a lot more willing to switch things up defensively, to, blitz, to trap, to do that type of stuff. Just kind of like the attitude he has as a head coach. I feel like he wouldn't be the type to just sit back and just run drop scheme all game long. Who knows how the ball movement would be like, but I'll take it. At this point. Keeps Dame happy. All the Stotts lovers wouldn't be too mad. And we get to see something new. I'd be cool with that.
Gordon, this quick interview was on primetime. So if you go to their website and 1080 The Fan and look up he's on with them every Thursday, so it's from last Thursday's show.
Yep. Shout out
And
to
then,
Toasty, who asked us for a 5-minute ban. We obliged. And then shout out to War of Mankind. He came in here saying, "Oh look, he said, hey look, it's the Dame Protection Squad." I gave him a 5-minute ban and said, "Hey look, 5-minute ban." Say hi first, at least, if you're gonna. Hate.
That brings me to an interesting question from Toasty. I'll answer his question since he begged to get banned.
Mm-hmm.
He asked who your favorite Blazer was, and it's absolutely Dame.
Yeah. I mean, Brandon Roy. I loved Brandon Roy, but I was very young, so he's not super fresh in my mind or anything. So yeah, at this point, it's definitely Dame.
And I mean, I don't mind being part of the Dame Protection Squad because Dame is an amazing player. He's an amazing person. What he's done for this franchise and this city. It's a rare thing in sports, especially for a small market like Portland, and I'm grateful for him. Yeah, I mean, I'm not ashamed to be a Dame apologist. He's a great player, and he's been everything for this franchise.
I mean, War of Mankind's just a hater, man. So. At this point, it's like, dude, I haven't seen him say anything in months. He comes in here and says, "Dame Protection Squad." Like, bro, come on now. You give us that, we'll give you the 5-minute ban, and we'll be happy to do so. Trust me. So that's 2 out of 4 notes, or
yeah, okay. And then real quick, so we got to talk about this in a second, but first, let me get to this. Just came out a few minutes ago. That now it's been a couple of hours. Once again, that the Blazers have long dreamed of pairing Draymond Green with CJ and Dame. That was an article that just came out a few hours ago.
Yeah, take everything with a grain of salt. That's all I'm going to say on that.
Yep, and I mean, I'm sure they would have liked to have a Draymond Green in years past. I don't know if at this point in his career they're still longing for him, but definitely something to look out for if Golden State ever decides to move on from Draymond. I'd expect us to make a big run for him, but yeah, it hasn't really made sense up until this point. And then the last thing I want to talk about is I don't know if this source is trustworthy at all, and I think people are blowing this way out of proportion, but it came out today that apparently the Orlando Magic wanted Anthony Simons for Aaron Gordon, and we said no to including him in the trade.
There was also reported that they valued R.J. Hampton more than Anthony Simons, though.
Yes,
so
that was part
like
of the same report.
I don't think it was a situation where they were ready to do a trade and we said no simply because Anthony was in it. It was more like we were saying, yeah, you guys aren't getting Anthony in this trade no matter what or something. So, and then people were freaking out about that, but it's like they would have also likely wanted Trent, a first-round pick. Maybe not. If they valued R.J. Hampton more, didn't they get a first-round pick from Denver too?
Yeah, future first. Yep.
Yeah, so I mean, it would have, if they valued Hampton more than Simons and got Hampton a pick, it would have taken Simons a pick and likely Gary Trent Jr., and then we also would have had to stay out of the tax, so we would have also had to trade Hood, and we also would have had to trade Derrick Jones Jr. So it would have been Hood, Derrick Jones Jr., Gary Trent Jr., Anthony Simons, and a first-round pick. And people are freaking out that we didn't go do that because they really wanted to see Aaron Gordon stand in the corner and shoot threes at 32%.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, it would, and then on top of that, we would have had to call Houston and make that pick either unprotected or reduce the protections to unprotected in a future year, and then just to be able to trade a future pick. And then, yeah, Jason Peterson tweets, "Oh, good thing we didn't trade Anthony Simons for Aaron Gordon when that 0 minutes really played so good for us tonight." And here's the thing: we can't trade Simons for Gordon. So even if they wanted Simons more than Hampton, we can't make that trade work.
Exactly.
So you basically would be sitting here I mean, maybe you keep Trent in that situation, but or trade him elsewhere or get something else. But he was making the minimum, so you couldn't have really done anything trade wise if you sent out Hood for Aaron Gordon. So you'd have the roster right now. We'd have no Powell.
Well, yeah, you'd have to give up Powell. You'd have
no
to
Derek
give up
Jones.
Mm-hmm.
No Simons.
Mm-hmm.
No first round pick, and we would lose the protections and possibly, with the way we're playing right now, risk a lottery pick going to Houston this year instead of us keeping the pick if we fall out of the playoffs. So all of that just to get Aaron Gordon, who, like, I guess somehow turned into like this all-NBA, all-star, like bona fide superstar somehow just because Denver traded for them instead of us, which I don't understand at all. And that's not anyone. Let me just say this. Anyone, if you see any tweets from these guys making fun of them, not including Simons, they either don't understand how the cap works or they don't understand how to be a GM, because that is just a ridiculous amount of talent and stuff to give up just to get a guy who in my opinion, Powell is better than him. He might not be as big as him, so maybe that would have worked out differently somehow. But Powell is a better player than Aaron Gordon, just if you measure them in a vacuum.
Yeah, if you see somebody complain about not trading for Aaron Gordon, just ask them, so you would have wanted to give up a first-round pick, Norman Powell, Derrick Jones Jr., and Anthony Simons for Aaron Gordon? You think that's a good value? Because that's essentially what it would have had to have been. Jason Peterson is playing dumb to hate Olshey, or he just doesn't know what he's talking about. Very possibly the second one. I mean, that guy. And you know what? If he had never been a complete asshole to me and you, I wouldn't say that. You know, but since he has been, I will say what's on my mind. That's just kind of how it goes, man. I mean, yeah. People want to hate on Olshey. He's one of them. So, yeah. Learn the cap. Learn how to GM. Then you can critique. You know, he's one of the guys that says, oh, these guys think they know more about coaching in the NBA than an actual NBA head coach. He's one of those people, man. I mean, he has me blocked, but one of you guys, if you see that type of stuff, I mean, feel free to say, oh, you think you know more about being a GM than Neil Olshey, because it seems like a lot of these people actually do. The thing is, we study the CBA, we study that type of stuff. We know as much about that type of stuff, if not more, than anybody else that covers the Blazers. And that's not even like a flex. That's simply because we actually have tried to learn about it, where anybody else that covers the Blazers doesn't care enough to try and learn about it. You know what I mean? Like, we've dedicated ourselves to knowing that type of stuff, Eric. As fans, before we had this channel, we did that. We dedicated ourselves to knowing the CBA because we were fans and wanted to know that type of stuff. But the people who cover the team don't care. So, yes, I will flex and say we know the CBA, what goes into being a GM, more than people that cover the team, because we've tried.
Yep. And this is 100% true. Don't let anybody fool you. If you see a single person saying, Olshey doesn't take risks, he doesn't make the big all-in move, he hasn't paired Dame with another star, whatever, they're basically 100% saying we should have traded CJ long ago, and that's their argument. They'll maybe try to backtrack or backpedal out of that and saying, no, it's not necessarily CJ, it's just that he hasn't done anything to go all in. Whereas Quick answered this perfectly on that same interview. He's like, okay, so he goes into the offseason, he doesn't like trading first round picks, he brings in an elite 3-and-D forward who's like an excellent defender, a former all defensive team player, and who's shooting 39% from threes this year, and that hasn't made a single difference on our defense. And that's not going for a risk or making a solid move, but it's just because we didn't trade CJ, right? If we would have traded CJ and gotten in someone else and made that Robert Covington move, then people would be like, oh my God, he's finally doing this or whatever. But this guy believes in Dame and CJ, and whether you think that's right or wrong, it's not. It doesn't mean he's not doing as much as he can to put talent around them. This guy traded for someone at the deadline who's averaging almost 20 points a game on insane efficiency and one of the best three-point shooters in the league, a great finisher around the rim, gets to the free throw line a decent amount, and people basically push it off as, oh, lateral move, barely, like, why would we even trade for that guy? Should have, like, Trent's way better, should have kept him, whatever. It's like, I mean, this guy was like he's not an all-star, but like, I mean, these guys are really good players, and he's putting talent on this team. He's put a ton of talent on this roster, and I just think it's such a disservice to say just because you don't like Dame and CJ together and you have a problem with the way CJ plays, that this guy doesn't do everything he can and he's settling for mediocrity because he still believes in those two.
Yep. I agree with your sentiments, and I've said just that multiple times, because I don't know, man. It's people want to hate on him. I mean, that's just what it boils down to. In summary, people want to hate on Olshey. We don't want to hate on Stotts. Notice how we didn't really hate on Stotts tonight because he did the things that we wanted him to do. We don't search to hate on Stotts. We just watch the game, and if we're not doing the right things, then we have a problem with it. It's that simple, whereas other people just want to hate Olshey. But, yeah, I mean, if we replace Stotts, we'll see how that shakes itself out. It'll be interesting. This offseason will be extremely interesting. Extremely, extremely interesting, Eric. I'm honestly kind of looking forward to it. We still got the rest of the season, then maybe like, fingers crossed, a playoff run, I guess. Probably not, but this offseason will at least be entertaining.
Yep. So Holly says, Dame and CJ are great. Where's the rest of the, quote, tons of talent?
Robert Covington, Norman Powell, Yusuf Nurkic, Enes Kanter, Derrick Jones Jr. Those guys. Yeah.
Yep. Even Anthony Simons and Nas, if developed.
Nas, yeah. I mean, as like 10th, 11th guys, Eric?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I didn't even say Melo. My bad. Melo, too, I'll throw him in there. I don't think Block Boy's in here anymore, but yeah, I mean, we turned Al-Farouq Aminu and Maurice Harkless into Robert Covington and Norman Powell. That's pretty good. We turned Mason Plumlee into Yusuf Nurkic in a pick. That's pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
Just saying. I mean, we drafted Gary Trent Jr. with the 36th, 37th overall pick in the draft. That's pretty good. We turned him into a 20-point per game score. I mean, what do you want? Like, we're not gonna be able to just sign Anthony Davis in free agency. I don't know. But
Holly, I'm sorry, but you have the wrong definition of journeyman. Those guys are not journeymen. You don't 20-point game scorers in the league and elite 3-and-D players and a center as talented as Nurk are not journeymen. That's not what that is.
No, both those guys have only played on 2 teams in like 7 years. So how is that a journeyman? Robert Covington,
Kanter, you could say is a journeyman.
Robert Covington only got traded from the Sixers because they went out and got Jimmy Butler. You know what I mean? And then he was on the Timberwolves, who sucked, so then they traded him to a contending team in Houston. And then Houston had Harden cause a bunch of issues, so then we traded for him. And that's not a journeyman. He's not bouncing around the league because he's not good enough. This isn't Jeff Green. Robert Covington's one of the best 3-and-D role players in the NBA, shooting 39% from 3 and one of the best defensive forwards the league that there is in the league. I mean, isn't that what we needed from our forwards? It was Aminu and Harkless are good defenders, but I would rather have a great defender like a Robert Covington who can also shoot threes like a Robert Covington. Then we get Robert Covington, and all of a sudden he's a journeyman. I don't get it. But
and no one said Jones is elite, Holly. I mean,
yeah,
just not
I don't know where you got that from, but oh look, it's Lukrovka. Lukrovka's in here. Right when we're about to sign off. But Lukrovka has multiple sources around the league telling him they're tearing it down and building around Melo. No joke, book it. Very reliable source there. I'm sure he has the picture to prove it, Eric. The picture, a blurry text message or something.
That would be interesting. Yeah, the Melo be like 37 next season.
Be a pretty good tank job, to say the least.
Yeah.
For nothing good, though.
I'm
Yeah, trade Dame for cash, okay, so that we're bad
No.
enough to get picks. All right, I want Jalen
No.
Suggs.
Get trade Dame for like Al Horford and some other like whatever aging veterans
Yes.
OKC doesn't want there. And then
So that we have no cap
yeah.
space, too. Yeah.
God, who could we trade CJ for, man? Who's like another person that's old and on a bad contract and just roll out the all 37-year-old.
I mean, I don't know. If you want a tank, you trade CJ for Aaron Gordon, right? So, anyway. Yeah, we're going to wrap up this stream. We are a little over 2 hours. Been a long stream. We had a ton to talk about tonight in this post-game show. If you missed a part of it and you want to re-listen, I'll get this uploaded to Spotify overnight, so it'll be up there tomorrow morning or on Google Podcasts, or you could just watch back the YouTube feed, as always, since it does save as a video. Thank you to everybody who donated. You guys killed it with the donations tonight. Eric has one more thing to say. What's up, Eric?
Tor,
Yes.
someone in chat, let me give him credit. Joel said Kevin Love. Yeah. So
Yes.
trade CJ for Kevin Love, Dame for Horford and salary filler, and then so you move Melo back to the 3, and then you have Melo, Horford, and Kevin Love.
No,
starting
Eric.
forwards next year.
Eric, what are you talking about, bro? You start Melo at point guard. Remember, that was your...
Point Melo.
that was your
if
thing.
If you're going to build around it, might as well make him point
Yeah,
guard.
you know, I
that's
mean,
true.
why waste time
My
having
bad.
somebody pass him the ball? Just have him be the point guard. But make sure you go out and get Deion Waiters, too. And J.R. Smith. Those two have to fill out that lineup.
Yeah. Bring back Whiteside.
Have him shoot threes, though.
I'm guessing we could probably get Wall for pretty cheap.
Yeah?
We could play him at shooting guard since Melo's our point guard.
Yeah. A real good floor spacer for Melo. But you'd have to run an up-tempo offense with that team. You know, you'd really want Melo pushing it hard in transition, man. That is his game now that he's 37 years old.
We should also keep Stotts in that situation. I think. He would be the
Honestly,
perfect coach for
the
that.
perfect tank commander at that point, man. The thing is, he might be the best coach for that team. No, you get a bunch of players that can only ISO, and then you go out and you somehow find a way to get Steve Kerr. That's what you do.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's going to be a wrap for this post-game show. Tomorrow we will be off. Thursday we will have Blazers Uprise live over on our second channel. If you want to go subscribe to that, the link is down in the description below. We will do picks against the spread as always, and we will preview our game on Friday. We actually have 2 days off. We don't play again until Friday. That game is coming up against the San Antonio Spurs. We'll see if we can break this 2-game losing streak. That's another... that's a team that's a tier below the Heat and the Celtics. If we play the style of basketball we played tonight, we should end up being the Spurs. But if we play the style of basketball that we've been playing recently against decent to good teams, that could easily end up as a loss. It'll be interesting to see if we continue what we did tonight in the first half, especially, or if we relapse back to the way we played before this Celtics game. Anyway, I hope you all enjoyed the show. I enjoyed the game despite it being a loss, and I enjoyed this post-game show, to say the least. So hopefully you enjoyed this one as well. Leave a like. It really does help us out. Your support means the world to us. Thank you to my mods, Reese, Trevin, and Zach. Luke Krofka says, how do you send us money? We need beard trimmers. I got beard trimmers, but you should send us money anyway. We will end the stream with a dono from you if you want to hit that $sign below the comment box. I mean, I know you know where the comment box is, so that $sign. Feel free to donate for some beard trimmers or whatnot, man. I mean, I've seen what you got. I don't know if I'd be talking if I were you. But anyway, fun end to the stream. Lukrovka picked a random time to tune in. It's past midnight, man. It's past his bedtime. So anyway, thank you all for making this stream a fun stream tonight. We will catch you again on Blazers Uprise Live Thursday, and then right here with another post-game show on Friday. Anything you want to end off with, Eric?
Nope. Thank you all for tuning in. Even those that disagree with us, I appreciate you guys. Like always, had some counteractions to what we're saying, but at least she's being respectful.
Counteractions. That's a nice way to put it. I like that.
But yeah, it's for the most part, people have had great conversations tonight. There's a few people that got out of hand and are being not very good. So just be careful.
Why did
GK.
you explain that like Stotts would?
I don't know.
Some things got out of hand and were not very good, but overall it was good.
I'm just making excuses at this point. All right,
No.
Good night, everyone.
This is why I handle the outros. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, no, I agree with that. Don't insult people in chat. You guys know the rule. I mean, Isaac knows that rule, and he came in here doing it anyway. And also, his latest comment will get him a 5-minute ban as we end off this stream. Oh, you beat me to it. Isaac can always count on Isaac to get himself a 5-minute ban in chat. Anyway, thank you to everybody who tuned in tonight. We will catch you again on Thursday on Blazers Uprise Live. Until then, hope you have a good Wednesday. And as always, peace out. Go Blazers.